Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio Chapter 26, celebrating their departure land of fire. Yuzuru Uchiha's figure appeared out of thin air. Without pausing, he continued swiftly toward the land of rice fields. Remembering the tears of years gone by. He hummed a cheerful little tune, clearly in good spirits. The battle with Sakumo Hatake had given him a far clearer sense of his own strength. Even relying solely on the dynamic vision of the Mangekyo Sharingan, he had managed to handle most of Sakumo's attacks. Though his taijutsu and ninjutsu hadn't been enough to seriously threaten Sakumo, Yuzuru didn't care. Taijutsu and ninjutsu only needed to be sufficient. His true trump card was Kamui. Every attack Sakumo had unleashed with his full strength, Yuzuru could have evaded effortlessly with a single phase shift. If he hadn't been conserving his Dijutsu power, he could have killed Sakumo outright with the power of his dual Kamui. Against the overwhelming might of the Mangekyo Sharingan, a traditional powerhouse like Sakumo was at a natural disadvantage. At this point, there were few in the shinobi world who could truly threaten Yuzuru's life. That was the power of twin Kamui, absolute security. Konoha must be in chaos by now, he murmured with a grin. But this is just the beginning. Let's hope Hiruzen Sarutobi and his friends can hold out for a while longer. It'd be boring if they collapsed too soon. And those Konoha villagers who despised the Uchiha, someday they'll learn exactly whose sacrifice bought them their peace. So that's how it is. Yuzuru Uchiha's strength has far exceeded our estimates. After hearing Sakumo Hatake's report, Hiruzen Sarutobi's brows knit into a deep scowl. From Sakumo's description, there was no doubt. The boy possessed the Mangekyo Sharingan. It was unexpected that after so many years, the power that Madara Uchiha had relied on to end the chaotic world had reappeared. Damn it, wasn't it just a bit of mistreatment? Couldn't they have endured it for the sake of the village? Was it necessary to go to this extreme? As Hiruzen sat in silence, Danzo Shimura's cold voice broke the air. A brat with a Mangekyo Sharingan can fight Sakumo to a standstill. That kind of power should have been ours to control. Hiruzen, the entire Uchiha clan has defected, and the future Nine-Tails Jinchuriki has vanished. You must take full responsibility as Hokage. Hiruzen rubbed his temples, exhausted. Of all times, Danzo chose now to score points. Enough. What matters now is tracking the Uchiha's movements and their intentions. If another village takes them in and uses them against us, we'll be in deep trouble. At his words, Koharu Udatane and Hamura Mitokado jumped in immediately. Hiruzen, we should send troops to eradicate those evil Uchiha. Yes, that clan has been a menace to the village for too long. It's time we removed that tumor once and for all. But their Sharingan eyes belong to Konoha. We must recover all of them intact. Hiruzen stared at the pair, unable to hold back a sigh. You two are forgetting something. The Uchiha are not weak. And now they have Yuzuru, who wields the Mangekyo Sharingan. How do you propose we eradicate them? Danzo snorted. What? The great hidden leaf can't handle a single Uchiha clan. Hiruzen took a long drag on his pipe. And what if the other villages don't sit idly by? If they unite against us, like in the previous shinobi wars, what then? Will you and your followers go to the front lines? Danzo's expression twitched. The route must remain in Konoha to ensure the village's internal security. We can't waste resources in battle. Koharu and Hamura quickly echoed. Our clans suffered heavy losses in the explosion at the Uchiha compound. We'll need time to recover. Then what the hell are you even talking for? Hiruzen roared, slamming a fist on the table. The thought of the Uchiha possibly aligning with rival villages filled him with dread. Before, he hadn't considered the Uchiha particularly indispensable. But now that they were gone, every decision felt like walking on a tightrope. The council bickered endlessly, each avoiding responsibility, and no resolution came of it. At last, Hiruzen ended the session with a sigh, instructing Sakumo to lead the Anbu in searching for the Uchiha's new base. Sakumo, tell them this. If they're willing to return, Konoha will forgive them. We'll let bygones be bygones. You can't hide fire under paper, and last night's explosions from the Uchiha district had echoed across all of Konoha. Within hours, Every villager knew the shocking news. The Uchiha clan had defected. Every single one of them. But while Hiruzen worried and Danzo schemed, the common villagers reacted quite differently. The Uchiha had never been popular in Konoha. Most found them cold, prideful, and distant. So when word spread that the entire clan had left, the general response was amusement. Those arrogant Uchiha finally left. Good riddance. They never contributed anything to the village anyway. Exactly. Always acting superior, now Konoha can finally breathe in peace. Letting them run off feels too generous. We should brand them as rogue ninja. Konoha doesn't need the Uchiha. I'm drinking tonight to celebrate. If they think this will make us regret it, they're dead wrong. I can't wait to see them crawl back begging like dogs. Before long, the Uchiha ruins had become a tourist spot. Villagers lined up to see the ashes of the One-Sprout clan. Konoha's taverns were more crowded than ever. It was like a festival, a celebration of the Uchiha's downfall. For the major clans, Shimura, Mitokado, and Sarutobi, the mood was even brighter. When common villagers left, they lost laborers to exploit. But when a powerful clan like the Uchiha vanished, it meant only one thing: more wealth and territory to divide among themselves. Only the Nara clan, known for their intelligence, seemed to recognize the danger. Everyone else celebrated, blind to what the loss truly meant. In their eyes, it had always been Konoha that protected the Uchiha, never the Uchiha who protected Konoha. Chapter 27, The Uchiha Are Noble Kamui. With a ripple in space, Kushina Uzumaki felt a wave of dizziness sweep over her. When her vision cleared, she found herself in a completely unfamiliar landscape. All around her stretched open plains covered with yellowing plants she didn't recognize. A few people wearing straw hats moved slowly through the fields. "Yuzuru, where are we?" she asked, staring at the scenery so different from the land of fire. "The land of rice fields," Yuzuru Uchiha replied with a smile. "Kushina, this will be our temporary home." "Really?" Kushina's face lit up in delight. She had originally thought that escaping the Hidden Leaf Village would be a very difficult affair, but she completed the plan after just a few nights' sleep. "So, what do we do now?" "We're going to meet up with my clan." Kushina nodded immediately. During their journey, she had learned all of Yuzuru's plans, and knew that the entire Uchiha clan had already gathered here in the land of rice fields. The thought that the Uchiha had left Konoha, just as she had, out of disappointment and defiance, filled her heart with a quiet sense of kinship. "Yuzuru, what are all these things? There are so many of them, and those people with the straw hats, are they patrolling?" Yuzuru chuckled softly. "That's wheat. The flour we eat comes from it. As for those people, they're farmers. Harvest season is near, so they're guarding against fires." "Oh," Kushina said brightly, nodding with excitement. "So that's how it works." She asked questions about everything she saw, like a child discovering the world anew, and Yuzuru, patient as ever, answered everyone. Even if they were just simple things, to Kushina, they were fresh and fascinating. A cool autumn breeze drifted by. She stretched out her arms, inhaling deeply. Then she cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted toward the open fields. "This is the smell of freedom." Since being chosen as the next Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, she hadn't felt this alive in years. Watching her skip along the path, full of energy, Yuzuru couldn't help but smile. Now that's the feeling of a proper anime heroine, he thought wryly. When Yuzuru and Kushina finally reached the Uchiha's relocation site, what greeted them were rows of newly built wooden houses. Children played nearby, women cooked over fires, and men worked with tools in hand. Elderly men sat together, squinting contentedly as they watched their people rebuild their lives. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Lord Yuzuru! Lord Yuzuru is here." In an instant, everyone dropped what they were doing and rushed over. "Lord Yuzuru, thank goodness you're safe. We were worried. Your home's already built, humble but sturdy. Please don't mind the simplicity. If not for the timber you had us prepare beforehand, we'd still be sleeping under the open sky." "Lord Yuzuru, I'll inform the clan leader at once." The title, Lord Yuzuru, had spread quickly among the Uchiha. After using his Mangekyo Sharingan to teleport the entire clan safely to the land of rice fields, his prestige now rivaled even that of Teru Uchiha. "Go on ahead," Kushina said softly. "I'll take a look around." Yuzuru nodded. "Go find Makoto, I'll catch up later." After parting with her, Yuzuru entered a large wooden house at the settlement center. Teru Uchiha and Fugaku Uchiha immediately stood up, striding over to clasp his shoulder firmly. Yuzuru, you're unharmed, that's a relief. Yuzuru shook his head lightly. I'm fine, how have things been here? Teru gestured for Fugaku to pour water, then sighed in satisfaction. Thanks to the daimyo of the land of rice fields, we've received supplies, tools, even craftsmen to help us build homes. Aside from things being a bit rough, everything's stabilizing. Fugaku set down the cup and added, the daimyo's been surprisingly generous. Not only did he not blame us, but he spent heavily to help. Yuzuru smiled faintly. I used genjutsu to control him. What? Both men coughed violently, choking on their tea. They'd wondered why a man of such high status would show such kindness to exiles. Now it made perfect sense. When they finally composed themselves, Teru exhaled with a helpless laugh. Yuzuru, you're truly bold. The daimyos were the most powerful rulers in the world, while shinobi were tools at their feet. To cast genjutsu on a daimyo was outright rebellion. If that ever got out, every nation would turn on the Uchiha. But Yuzuru merely took a sip of water and said calmly, daimyos are parasites. One day I'll wipe them all out. The two men inhaled sharply, eliminate all daimyos. That was insanity. Seeing their disbelief, Yuzuru smiled faintly. Don't worry, that day's still far off. For now, let's focus on the present. Fugaku breathed a quiet sigh of relief before asking. So, Yuzuru, what's the plan now? Our presence here won't stay secret for long, Yuzuru said with an amused glint in his eye. When the other villages come knocking, we'll see who makes the best offer. Whichever one does, we'll join them. The shinobi world was in constant turmoil, and the Uchiha's Sharingan was a power every village coveted. To ensure their clan's survival and growth, they needed the protection of a strong ally. More than anything, increasing their numbers was vital. And besides, Yuzuru wanted to see the looks on Konoha's faces when the Uchiha returned at the head of an allied army. Hearing his plan, Fugaku hesitated. Yuzuru, do you really think any village would take us in? Yuzuru snorted. Fugaku, you're an Uchiha. Hold your head high, straighten your back. Remember this, no matter where we go, the Uchiha are a prize every village will compete for. We are the noblest clan of all. As Yuzuru spoke, something stirred deep in Fugaku's chest, a pride he hadn't felt in a long time, a pride carved into his very bones, blazing with confidence and defiance. That commanding, world-defying aura, this was what it meant to be an Uchiha. Compared to Yuzuru, he still had a long, long way to go. Chapter 28 Recognition from the Uzumaki. The sunset bathed the sky in shades of crimson, painting the clouds like a sea of fire. Yuzuru Uchiha stepped out of his room, raising his arms high above his head in a lazy stretch. Their next course of action had already been decided. Now, all that remained was to raise their guard and quietly wait for the prey to come to them. After sensing his surroundings briefly, Yuzuru turned to the right and soon spotted Kushina Uzumaki and Makoto Uchiha embracing each other. You too, startled by his voice, Makoto quickly released Kushina. Yuzuru, it's been so long since we've seen each other, so we were just... Don't get the wrong idea. Kushina laughed lightly and grabbed Makoto's hand. What's there to explain? We're just close friends catching up. Anyway, she continued, you brought me here without permission. Did your clan leader give you any trouble for that? Kushina knew very well that as the future Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, Konoha would never easily let her go. Bringing her along could very well cause trouble for the Uchiha. She had already made up her mind. If the clan disapproved, she would leave on her own. Yuzuru reached out and ruffled her hair. You think I brought you here just to abandon you, he said impatiently. The Uchiha are under my command now. From today on, this is your home. Makoto chimed in. That's right. Yuzuru is the hero of our Uchiha clan. Even if it's just because of Yuzuru, everyone will accept you. Kushina's face flushed at Makoto's words. Because of Yuzuru, did Makoto notice something? Yuzuru sat down casually on the ground and said calmly, I'm no hero. I just do what I want, protect who I want to protect. Makoto shook her head softly. No, you are a hero. You're the one who saved the Uchiha. And mine too, Kushina added silently in her heart. Seeing Makoto's earnest expression, Yuzuru reached out and pulled her gently into his arms. Yuzuru, Kushina's still here. It's fine, he said. Watching them together, Kushina felt a pang of envy mixed with quiet sadness. Suddenly, a large hand reached out and grabbed hers. Ah, Kushina, what's wrong? And nothing, just a bug. Her eyes widened in shock and embarrassment as she glared at Yuzuru, but she didn't pull her hand away. That night, everyone gathered for dinner. When the Uchiha clansmen learned who Kushina really was, their jaws collectively dropped. Then laughter and cheers filled the room. Ha 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 ha, as expected of Lord Yuzuru. Even the future Ninetales Jinchuriki has been brought to our side. Konoha's going to explode when they find out. Yeah, I bet Hiruzen Sarutobai's tearing his hair out right now. Once the Ninetales goes berserk, no one will be able to stop it. With Kushina and our Sharingan gone, if the Ninetales loses control, Konoha will be reduced to ashes. Kushina, don't worry about anything. You can live here peacefully. Leave Konoha's enemies to us. Listening to their loud, confident voices, Kushina felt a warmth blooming in her chest. For the first time in a long while, she felt accepted. Then, taking a deep breath, she reached into her robes and pulled out a sealing scroll. Yuzuru, she said, stepping forward. This contains the sealing techniques of the Uzumaki clan. I want to entrust it to the Uchiha. Her words silenced the entire room. Everyone turned to her in disbelief. The sealing arts of the Uzumaki, the most coveted techniques in all the shinobi world. It was those very arts that had led to the destruction of the land of whirlpools. Even a great clan like the Uchiha could not remain unmoved by such a gift. Yuzuru's eyes flickered with surprise. Kushina, this is your clan's legacy. Are you sure you want to give it to us? Kushina nodded firmly. Yes, you've accepted me, so I want to do my part for the Uchiha. That's wonderful. Someone shouted, followed by an eruption of applause. Kushina's heart swelled with joy at being embraced by the Uchiha, and the Uchiha themselves felt the same pride that even the last survivor of the Uzumaki had recognized them. The next morning, Yuzuru was woken by the sound of knocking. When he opened the door, he found Abaito Uchiha standing there, wearing his usual goggles. Abaito, it's early, what do you want? Yuzuru Niisan, Abaito shouted eagerly. Teach me how to be a ninja. I don't want the others from the academy to get ahead of me. He hadn't even been at the ninja academy for 10 days, but Abaito already had rivals. That smug, dead-eyed Kakashi who never looked anyone in the face, that loud green spandex maniac who screamed about youth, Guy, and that overbearing heir to the Sarutobi line, Asuma. All of them had mocked him for being at the bottom of the class. Even if he had left Konoha, Abaito swore that next time they met, he'd crush them all beneath his feet, show them what it really meant to be an Uchiha. The clan already assigned teachers to train you, didn't they? Yuzuru said mildly. I don't like them, Abaito grumbled. They're too weak, and they make me sit through boring lectures for half the day. I want to be the strongest Uchiha, Yuzuru Nissen. Will you train me? Yuzuru rubbed his chin. Getting stronger isn't easy, Abaito. Can you really endure it? Of course I can, Abaito said proudly, thumping his chest. I'm not the kind of guy who gives up. Fine then. He had some free time anyway. Training Abaito might prove interesting. Yes, Abaito practically jumped for joy. Yuzuru was the clan's most gifted shinobi in generations, and now possessed the legendary Mangekyo Sharingan. If he trained under Yuzuru, Abaito was certain he'd become the next strongest of the Uchiha. Yuzuru Niisan, I think I want to study academic lessons instead. Abaito lay sprawled face down in the dirt, utterly exhausted, his voice weak and broken. Pain, so much pain. He was convinced he was dying. This kind of training. Did Yuzuru even consider him a human being? Chapter 29, Hidden Currents surge. Watching the motionless Uchiha Abaito sprawled on the ground, Yuzuru couldn't help but marvel. Even after training to this level, you still insist on studying academics. Abaito, you jerk. At the remark, Abaito hastily protested. Yuzuru brother, I mean I won't ask you to train me anymore from now on. I feel training with the clan suits me better. Yuzuru cut him off decisively. Abaito, you're not like the others. Don't waste your time on academics. Abaito opened his mouth to reply, but Yuzuru's face hardened and he said coldly, Get up and train right now, or I'll stick you in the ground and use you as ginseng. Days passed. Word spread through the shinobi world. The Uchiha clan had left Konoha and set up in the land of rice fields, under the pressure from Danzo Shimura, Uchiha Koharu, and Mitokado Himura, the Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi, issued an order branding all Uchiha clan members as rogue ninjas. That meant whatever chance of reconciliation between Konoha and the Uchiha was gone. When the news broke, everyone across the ninja nations was stunned. Not only the villagers of Konoha, even people in other parts of the Land of Fire were baffled. The clan that founded Konoha had been declared Konoha traitors. Did that make sense? The Senju had long since vanished from the village. Now the Uchiha had left too. Was that still Konoha? Konoha's prestige in the shinobi world plummeted, and contracts for mercenary ninjas dried up almost overnight. Even the daimyo of the Land of Fire personally intervened. Hiruzen Sarutobi himself went to the daimyo's court to apologize, swearing that the Land of Fire's security would not be compromised. Only then did the daimyo relent. He did, however, announce that future financial support for Konoha would be cut by 30%. The people who felt this most immediately were Konoha's ordinary villagers and the lowest-ranking ninjas. Many could no longer secure their basic needs. Crime in Konoha soared at an outrageous pace. Hiruzen was overwhelmed, but creating an organization to replace the Tokubetsu Jonin and police forces was no easy task. Within a month of the Uchiha's departure, whispers began to question the Hokage openly. Hiruzen sat in his office, smoking all day, still unable to make sense of it. It's just the Uchiha clan gone. How did the situation go this far? While Hiruzen scrambled to manage the village crises, other shinobi villages began to stir. Land of Wind, Sunagakuer, the third Kazekage, Lady Chiyo, Ebizo, and others sat around a huge conference table. After considering, the third Kazekage said, "The Uchiha clan is in the Land of Rice Fields now. We could try to make contact. If we manage to win the Uchiha over to Sunagakuer, our village's strength and reputation would reach a new high. Then many of the things we've wanted to attempt would become possible." Lady Chiyo snorted and snapped. "Those Uchiha betrayed the village they built themselves. What loyalty do they have? Instead of courting the Uchiha, we should take advantage and attack Konoha. Right now, Konoha is in chaos. They won't be able to resist us." The third Kazekage frowned. Chiyo had lost her son and daughter-in-law to Konoha shinobi. Her hatred for Konoha ran deep. That was understandable, but letting personal vendetta dictate matters of state was reckless. Even without the Uchiha, Konoha still had Sannin like Orochimaru, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo Shimura, and Sakumo Hatake, powerful figures at shadow level. An assault on Konoha would cost far more than it would gain. Matters concerning Konoha require long-term planning. The third Kazekage said coolly, "I'll send people to the Land of Rice Fields. By inducement or coercion, we must do everything possible to win the Uchiha. Until then, no one is to cause trouble." Sensing the tension between the third Kazekage and Chiyo, Ebizo quickly said, "Agreed. Sister, let's head back. Scorpion's child will forget to eat again." At the mention of Sasori, Chiyo finally rose one day. Konoha's shinobi will pay for this, she thought. Land of Lightning, Kumagakuer, the third Reikage summoned and Killer Bee to his office. The Uchiha clan is in the Land of Rice Fields. Take a team and go. Go do what? Ask if they'd be willing to come live in Kumagakuer. If not, find an opportunity to capture a few Uchiha. Our village needs more Kekkei Genkai. A nodded. Understood. He then punched the air toward Killer Bee. "Bee, this time you're coming out of the village with me." Killer Bee waved his limbs energetically. "If you want to keep up with Big Bro's speed, train your legs. I don't just talk. When the Uchiha see my 8 tails, they'll scream ghost so loud their heads fall off. Yo tilde 8 Garu, Kugagaru." After his chant, Killer Bee bumped fists with her and the two strode out of the Reikage's tower together. When Killer Bee left, a dark-skinned man with white hair beside the third Reikage asked, "Reikage-sama, shouldn't we try to recruit them first?" The third Reikage snorted coldly. "First see their strength. The weak don't deserve to stand before me. Steal if you can, negotiate if you can't." That had always been Kumagakuer's style. Land of Earth. Iwagakuer third Tsuchikage Anoki stared at the intelligence on the table for a long moment and finally said, "Kodo, do you think this is Konoha's scheme?" He shook his head and laughed quietly. If Konoha really intended such a move, he'd have to question the Hokage's intelligence. Unlike the diminutive Anoki, Kodo's voice rumbled. "Father, what are you going to do?" Anoki thought a moment and said in a low voice, "You go make contact with the Uchiha, see if they'd be willing to come live in Iwagakure. If they agree, we can offer them some benefits. Remember, do not engage them in conflict. Land of Water, Kirigakure." In a dim office, the scroll of intelligence lay open as Kakitsu Yagura glanced at it, then casually tossed it aside. The Uchiha clan defected from Konoha as expected. Those clans with Kekkei Genkai were the worst. If not for those clans, managing Kirigakure would be far easier. One day soon, he thought, he would round up every Kekkei Genkai clan in Kirigakure and wipe them out. Chapter 30, I told you to apologize. Not that I'd forgive you. Brother Yuzuru, please stop training me already. Can I just rest for one day? Watching the pleading Uchiha Abido, Yuzuru snorted coldly. No one succeeds without effort. If you don't put in the work, what right do you have to seek true power? Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio. Abido immediately shot back. Then how come I never see you training me? Yuzuru folded his arms and said calmly, I've met a lot of geniuses, but all of them call me one. And you've met plenty of deadlasts, and every one of them calls you dead last. That's the difference between us. It was a blow that hit body and soul. Abido felt like dying might hurt less. Honestly, Brother Yuzuru, do you have to be that blunt? Can't you at least say it nicely? Still, curiosity got the better of him. Brother Yuzuru, is it really good to chase after power too much? Back in the academy, our teachers said that relying too much on power is what caused so many wars and tragedies in the shinobi world. We should learn to use love to change everything. Yuzuru smacked Abido across the head and said in a cold voice, It's because we can't erase conflict that we need power even more. Without strength, you can't do anything. You can't protect anything. Putting your hopes in others is where tragedy begins. From now on, forget all that nonsense they teach you at the academy. Okay, got it. While they were talking, Yakumi Uchiha came running up in a panic. Lord Yuzuru, someone's here. Yuzuru Uchiha hadn't expected that the first visitors to come knocking would be from Sunagakure, the village farthest from the land of rice fields. He walked forward slowly, eyes narrowing at the group of dozens of sand shinobi ahead. What's going on? Seeing Fugaku Uchiha's dark expression, Yuzuru frowned slightly. Fugaku pointed at the sand nin standing in front. Those guys are getting way too arrogant. Oh. Yuzuru arched an eyebrow, then looked toward the sand ninja Fugaku had indicated. Shinobi of Sunagakure, state your purpose for coming here. The leading sand nin stepped forward. My name is Shoji Kagai. You're the one in charge of the Uchiha clan. When Yuzuru nodded, Shoji immediately said, Our Kazekage heard of your clan's defection from Konoha and has decided to take you in. From now on, would you be willing to serve Sunagakure? Yuzuru's brow creased. Watch your tone. My tone, Shoji barked out a laugh. You're nothing but a pack of stray dogs. The fact that Sunagakure is willing to take you in should make you grateful. Hand over your ninjutsu scrolls and supplies, and in return wheel. Before he could finish, his mind went blank for a split second. When he came to, Yuzuru had him by the neck, hoisted up. Shoji's eyes met the crimson whirl of Yuzuru's three-tomo Sharingan. He struggled to breathe. What are you doing? Think carefully about the consequences. You can't afford to provoke Sunagakure's wrath. Apologize. What? I said. Yuzuru's grip tightened. Apologize for what you just said. Blood rushed to Shoji's head. His lungs burned. The cold, killing intent in Yuzuru's gaze told him this wasn't a bluff. He would die here. I apologize. He choked out at last. I was rude, I'm sorry, but Yuzuru's hand didn't loosen. It only tightened. Shoji's eyes widened in disbelief. Why? He'd already apologized. Seeing the confusion on his face, Yuzuru said evenly, I told you to apologize. I never said I'd forgive you. Crack, with a sharp snap, Shoji's neck twisted, and Yuzuru tossed the corpse aside like a dead dog. The sand shinobi erupted in fury. Damned Uchiha. You dared kill a shinobi of Sunagakure. Unforgivable. We'll kill you and avenge our comrade. You'll face the wrath of the Kazekage himself. Your clan will be wiped out. To them, the Uchiha were nothing more than exiles, rootless strays anyone could trample. A once great clan, now reduced to beggars before a village's power. They hadn't come to rob them outright. That in their minds was already mercy. But now, these bastards had slain one of their own without hesitation. Unbelievable arrogance. Looking at the furious Sandnin, Yuzuru's lips curved into a faint smile. It's been far too long since the shinobi world has spoken the name of the Uchiha. Today, we'll use these sand shinobi's lives to remind everyone that the once great clan, bearers of the strongest Kekkei Genkai in history, has returned. At his words, the Uchiha behind him roared with excitement. Some trembled with anticipation they could no longer contain. Battle. At last. Madmen. Facing the rows of crimson three-tomo Sharingan, the Sandnin felt a chill that came from the depths of their souls. They had 5 Jonin among them, including Shoji himself, a strong formation by any standard. But against this many Uchiha, even 10 Jonin wouldn't make a difference. Before they could react, over a dozen Uchiha with fully awakened Sharingan formed seals simultaneously behind Yuzuru. Fire release. Great fireball technique. The massive fireballs collided and merged into a roaring inferno that engulfed the Sandnin. In an instant, the battlefield turned into a sea of flames. Screams rang out. Death swept through the Sand's ranks. When they finally blew the flames away with wind release, the surviving Sandnin found themselves staring straight into a wall of spinning Sharingan. The Uchiha were already upon them. At the front, Yuzuru's blade sliced cleanly through one throat after another, each arc leaving a trail of blood like scattered crimson petals. A Sandnin shouted, "Take him down or we're all dead here." Before the words finished, Yuzuru's hand closed around his neck. "You want to dance too?" Crack. The sound of shattering bone echoed as the man went limp. Explosions of kunai, senbon, and paper bombs filled the air, swallowing Yuzuru in a cloud of smoke and fire. Then, boom, with a thunderous blast, the smoke cleared. The Sandnin froze, eyes wide with horror. Yuzuru stepped through the haze, blade in hand, completely unscathed. And the pattern in his crimson eyes was no longer the familiar three-tomo, but something far more intricate and terrifying, unlike anything they had ever seen. Chapter 31, Only by recognizing weakness can one become gentle. Gulp. Why isn't that guy hurt at all? Our attacks didn't do anything. What the hell is happening? And those eyes, just looking at them makes me feel terrified. As the stunned sand shinobi froze in place, Yuzuru Uchiha's lips curled into a wicked smile. Run for your lives. Someone screamed the words first, and at once the entire sand squad broke. The sight of Yuzuru, drenched in blood like a demon god, shattered what little courage they had left. They scattered in every direction, a rabble of cowards. Yuzuru snorted in contempt and waved a hand toward the fleeing Sandnin. At once, Fugaku Uchiha led the others in pursuit. No matter how long a tiger is kept in a cage, when it reveals its sharp claws and fangs, it will still strike fear into the hearts of others. The battle ended far more easily than expected. Facing opponents who only thought of running, the Uchiha shinobi cut them down with ease, especially Fugaku. When the last 2 Sand Jonin made a desperate stand, he fought them both at once and didn't yield an inch. Even Yuzuru found himself impressed. Judging by Fugaku's current strength and precision, if he had chosen to resist on the night of the clan's massacre in the original timeline, the outcome might have been very different. Before long, all the Uchiha who had given chase returned. All 50 Sand shinobi, 5 Jonin among them, had been wiped out completely. Excitement glowed on every clan member's face. The Uchiha blood coursing through them made the thrill of battle almost intoxicating. "Yuzuru," Fugaku said as he approached, voice edged with concern. "The Sandnin are all dead. We should prepare for Sunagakure's retaliation." Yuzuru, however, looked unconcerned. "Fugaku, you're too soft-hearted. Weakness only invites further cruelty. The only way to earn respect is to make others fear you." That arrogant Sandnin you saw, only in the face of death did he finally discard his pride. Fear isn't a sin. Fear makes people aware of their own weakness, and once they recognize that weakness, they learn to act with courtesy and gentleness. Fugaku frowned slightly. Even so, for a major village like Sunagakure, losing 5 Jonin is a serious blow. They're bound to retaliate. Remember this, Fugaku. Yuzuru interrupted coldly. The weak will attract the covetous eyes of others even if they do nothing. The status and honor of the Uchiha clan will never come from submission to others, but from the strength of our fists. From now on, just follow my orders. Leave the thinking to me. T/N, he said it. Fugaku straightened unconsciously, his voice firm. Yes. The battle against the Sandnin pushed Yuzuru Uchiha's prestige within the clan to new heights. With everyone's approval behind him, Teru Uchiha directly handed over the position of clan head. Yuzuru didn't refuse. As clan leader, his plans could finally move forward unhindered. A week passed quietly. The slaughter of the Sand Squad didn't stir much commotion. In the meantime, emissaries from several small shinobi villages arrived, each hoping to convince the Uchiha to settle in their lands. Some even offered to hand over their own village leadership positions. But Yuzuru declined them all. Those tiny villages lacked population, resources, and land, hardly the foundation for the Uchiha's revival. To truly grow, they needed to align with one of the great hidden villages. A few days later, when the burly man entered the room, Yuzuru gestured politely. Kitsuchi, have a seat. Thank you. Kitsuchi sat across from him and got straight to the point. Clan leader Yuzuru, does the Uchiha clan have any interest in living in Iwagakure? We can offer your people land to settle on and a stable environment. Yuzuru waited in silence for a moment before asking. That's all. Kitsuchi nodded with a rumbling voice. That's all. If you want us to move to Iwagakure, Yuzuru said evenly, then we'll need a degree of autonomy and a say in your village's decisions. We'll also need part of your industries to sustain the clan's livelihood. Of course, we'll pay for what we take. As for our jutsu scrolls and clan resources, we reserve the right to decide whether to share them or not. The demands weren't excessive. Even in Konoha, they'd enjoyed similar privileges, but Kitsuchi's face showed clear hesitation. Everything else is possible, but autonomy and a voice in Iwagakure's leadership, that may be difficult. Yuzuru lifted his teacup and took a slow sip. Kitsuchi stood. Clan leader Yuzuru, I'll discuss your terms with my father. For now, I'll take my leave. As he watched Kitsuchi depart, Yuzuru felt a faint trace of disappointment. Had even Anoki, the man who once witnessed Uchiha Madara's overwhelming power, become so short-sighted, still he could understand. After all, with the scars Madara left on him, Anoki probably feared what might happen if he let another Uchiha into his village's core. Let's just hope, Yuzuru thought, that one day he doesn't regret his hesitation. At the border of the Land of Fire, 9 masked shinobi moved swiftly through the dense forest in 3 squads. Before long, they crossed into the land of rice fields. For a country without a hidden village, infiltration was child's play. Lord Danzo's orders are clear: bring Kushina Uzumaki back to Konoha, no matter the cost. And, if possible, capture some Uchiha, dead or alive. Only now did the rest of the root operatives learn their mission's true purpose. Emotion had long since been trained out of them. They simply nodded and memorized their objectives. Then, a rough voice echoed nearby. The root operatives turned sharply. 2 massive figures had appeared not far away. Well, look what we've got here. Konoha rats crawling all the way out here. What bad luck. The root squad leader's tone went icy. Our mission has nothing to do with Kumagakure. If you don't want to spark conflict between your village and Konoha, I suggest you leave immediately. One of the men cracked his neck and smirked. What's that gibberish you're mumbling? Let's get started. Yo, Chapter 32, The Abi Brothers, HMPH. Kano has shinobi are nothing but an empty reputation. How does a village like that deserve the richest resources in the shinobi world? Sooner or later, Kumagakure will be the strongest village of them all. Crackling with arcs of lightning, slammed the root operative's corpse to the ground. Konoha ninja. Utter garbage, not even worth his time. Behind him, Mamoru Yatsuki cautioned. Lord A, one of them escaped. Should we pursue? No need, said with disdain. If those Konoha worms dare cause trouble, kill every last one. Mamoru fell silent. There were only 8 of them on this outing, but aside from an and Killer B, the other 6 were all Jonin level. With a lineup like that, there was little to fear. By the way, the Uchiha encampment is just ahead. How do we handle it? It would be best if they willingly hand over some children. If they are unwilling, smiled. Then we'll just take them by force. If it were monsters like Orochimaru, Jiraiya, or Sakumo Hatake, he might hesitate, but the Uchiha. Aside from that so-called wicked eye Fugaku, what other name among them was worth remembering? He was curious to see what the vaunted Sharingan could do against his lightning release armor. They didn't bother hiding their approach, and the Uchiha scouts spotted them with ease. Before they drew too close to the clan's territory, Yuzuru Uchiha led a group out to intercept them. Seeing and Killer Bee in the flesh, Yuzuru could feel the raw strength in their towering frames. Those corded muscles, there was a brutal kind of beauty to them. Just standing there, the pressure they radiated was palpable. Uchiha Shinobi, Mamoru Yatsuki called out, "You have one chance, return with Lorda to live in Kumagakure." The arrogance matched the Sandanin from before, word for word. Yuzuru had expected as much. After all, not everyone was like Anoki, who had personally experienced the godlike power of the Uchiha clan. To earn respect, you first had to show overwhelming strength. When Yuzuru didn't answer, Mamoru's tone turned cold. "Be smart about this, otherwise we'll settle it by force." Hearing this, Fugaku took a step forward and said with a cold expression, "Then let me see if your so-called force is nothing but a joke. B you go." B. Thumpei's fist crashed down on Killer Bitake's head. Only then did B snap out of his trance, tucking away the notebook and pencil he'd been jotting rhymes in. He nodded absently and strode ahead with his head down. In the next instant, he snapped his wrist and hurled the pencil. Charged with lightning release chakra, it shot toward Fugaku's heart at blistering speed. Fugaku's 3-tamo Sharingan flared to life. He drew his blade in a flashing arc. Clang, the pencil split cleanly in midair. Bitake's expression grew serious. So that's the famed Sharingan. Even at that speed, he tracked it perfectly. B put away the notebook for good, drew the long blade strapped to his back and charged straight at Fugaku. Close combat. "So you really are underestimating me." Fugaku snorted and met him head-on, blade leveled. Steel rang the instant they clashed. Rough spin Heron's striking sword, with 7 blades whirling in a seamless flow, B pressed offense and defense at once, each edge slicing for one of Fugaku's vital points. Fugaku's heart lurched. His 3-tamo spun faster. Clang, clang, clang. Steel struck steel in a relentless rhythm, shallow cuts opening across Fugaku's clothes. His face tightened. He'd woven genjutsu into his swordplay, and yet, this opponent seemed utterly unaffected. Seizing a moment to break away, Fugaku flashed through hand signs. Fire release, great fireball technique. A towering fireball roared forth, swallowing everything ahead in the same breath. Fugaku whipped out a sealing scroll, unfurling a storm of shuriken and several massive Fuma shuriken. Go. All the blades streaked into the flames at once, razor-thin wires lacing inward to scythe through the fire's heart. Seeing this, the Uchiha clansmen who came with Yuzuru all had excited expressions on their faces. They'd won. But Mamoru and the others watched without a change in expression. When the flames finally dispersed, the expected carnage did not appear. A massive octopus tail had wrapped Bitake's body, shielding him from every attack. That's a tailed beast. Everyone's jaw dropped. Everyone but Yuzuru. Weren't tailed beasts supposed to be strategic assets? What was one doing here? And more, if he'd drawn on a tailed beast's power, why hadn't this Kumagakure Jinchuriki gone berserk? Using the 8 tails on the battlefield I shine. Saw this common, it was all by design. Lord Killer Bee is Kumagakure's pride. An attack like a tickle just makes me laugh inside. Yo tilde Bakearo Kanoiero, Bee shimmied into an impromptu rap, flipping Fugaku the finger more than once. Fugaku's face darkened, but he didn't charge in. A Jinchuriki who could freely wield a beast's power would not be so easily dealt with, if that's all you've got, I said, stepping forward as lightning flared around him. Then let's end this little farce. He entered lightning release chakra mode. Blue bolts danced across his body and his figure vanished. Even with 3-tamo Sharingan, Fugaku could barely track him. He swung as the lightning blur rushed in, but in a heartbeat, knocked the blade clean from his hands. Just as the fist, wreathed in lightning, was about to hit Fugaku's head, a jet-black skeletal giant hand slapped sending him flying. Yuzuru stood with his arms crossed. now covered by a layer of a jet-black skeleton that constantly emanated a wicked, ominous aura. Your strength has piqued my interest enough to make a move. Now, dance and try to entertain me. Oof, a nice burn from Yuzuru, chapter 33, but this is the Mangekyo Sharingan. What is that? A, who had been sent flying dozens of meters, climbed up from the ground, looking at Yuzuru with some anger. Thanks to the powerful defense provided by his lightning release chakra, he hadn't sustained any significant injuries. But being slapped away like that filled the ever-proud with fury. Come on, keep dancing for me. Yuzuru slowly walked forward, his pair of Mangekyo Sharingan continuously emitting a terrifying Dojutsu power. Faced with the provocation, a roared and his body once again turned into a blue bolt of lightning, charging at Yuzuru. Unlike with Fugaku, Yuzuru's Mangekyo Sharingan could clearly capture A's movements. And with his own cage-level abilities in all aspects, his body was more than capable of keeping up with A's speed. Boom, the two collided in an instant. Wielded by Yuzuru, the Kusanagi sword, coated in wind release chakra, hummed continuously as it relentlessly attacked A's vital points. A, on the other hand, relied on the defense of his lightning release chakra, recklessly engaging in a life-for-a-life exchange. However, after fighting for a while, I immediately realized something was wrong. None of his attacks had hit Yuzuru, while he himself had sustained numerous wounds. Aside from his old man back in the village, Yuzuru was the first person to be able to steadily overpower him in a taijutsu clash. At this thought, A's competitive spirit surged once again. He continuously launched attacks at Yuzuru, but the situation did not improve. This scene left all the Kumagakure ninja staring with their mouths agape in shock. Is there really someone in this world who can keep up with the speed of lightning? Even Fugaku and the others were equally stunned. Even when they pushed their Sharingan to the limit, they still found it difficult to track the movements of Yuzuru and A. They couldn't even follow with their eyes, let alone their bodies. If it were them, they would have probably been dead long ago, right? Just as everyone was marveling, A suddenly retreated, instantly creating distance between them. He was reckless, but not stupid. Through the fight just now, he had already realized the problem. Even though his dynamic vision was strong enough, it was still somewhat insufficient during high-speed movement. Therefore, after activating his lightning release chakra mode, he could only perform straightforward attacks. His previous enemies, even if they could barely track his movements, their bodies couldn't keep up, which was why they all fell to him. But now, Yuzuru, with that strange pair of eyes, not only saw through all his movements, but could also continuously counterattack. To defeat him, he needed even greater speed. Looking at A who had distanced himself, Yuzuru said proudly, "It's useless. Before these eyes, all your attack methods will be seen through." Seeing Yuzuru's composed expression, A snorted coldly, "The same goes for you. In the face of my lightning release armor, the long sword in your hand is nothing but a useless decoration, even with wind release chakra coating it." Hearing this, a smile graced Yuzuru's lips. "Is that so? That's right." A pushed his lightning release chakra mode to the absolute limit, the hair on his head standing on end. The next second, his figure vanished. Lightning release, lariat. With the acceleration over a long distance, A's body seemed to truly transform into a bolt of blue lightning, crossing the distance and appearing before Yuzuru in an instant. Even for the current Yuzuru, dodging such an attack would not be easy, but he didn't need to dodge. His intangibility activated, and A's attack passed straight through Yuzuru's body. As A stared in shock, Yuzuru raised the long sword in his hand. Not good. From that long sword, A felt an indescribable palpitation. If I get hit by that, I will definitely die. The intuition honed through years of life and death battles screamed warnings, but it was powerless. The powerful inertia made it impossible for him to control his body. Just as the long sword swung down, a giant octopus tail wrapped around A's body and violently pulled him back. Gulp. Looking at the bottomless trench left by Yuzuru's sword, I couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. If it weren't for Killer Bee, he might be dead right now. A failure, huh? Yuzuru murmured, but there was no disappointment in his eyes. The power demonstrated by imbuing his long sword with the space-distorting power of Kamui had even surprised him. Lifting his head, Yuzuru walked towards where Killer Bee and A were. Seeing this, the Yatsuki guards and others immediately rushed forward. Lord A, Lord Killer Bee, you retreat first. As unbelievable as it was, they had to admit one fact. The man opposite them was terrifyingly strong. If the fight continued, both A and Killer Bee might be in danger. Kumagakure absolutely could not bear such a loss. You think you can stop me? Looking at the 4 Yatsuki guards rushing over, Yuzuru snorted coldly and took the initiative to charge into their encirclement. Don't you underestimate us. The 4 Yatsuki guards attacked from 4 different angles simultaneously, leaving Yuzuru no room to dodge. Be careful, his body can phase through attacks. A shouted a reminder, recalling the earlier fight, but it was too late. The 4 men's attacks passed through Yuzuru's body without any resistance. The next second, 2 Kumonin were seized by giant skeletal hands. Crack. With a sickening crunch, the 2 Kumonin's bodies went limp like piles of mud. The remaining Yatsuki guard and the last Kumonin stood there in a daze, as if they had lost their minds, clearly caught in a genjutsu. I know it's hard for you to believe, but this is the Mangekyo Sharingan, the divine power of the Uchiha clan. No. A's eyes instantly became bloodshot as he watched helplessly while the long sword slit the Yatsuki guard's throat. Don't show such an unsightly expression of disbelief. When you decided to solve problems with force, you should have been prepared to be killed. 4 Jonin lives spent, and they hadn't delayed Yuzuru for even a moment. Watching Yuzuru get closer and closer, an extremely terrifying chakra erupted from Killer Bee's body. Immediately after, Juki with its 8 giant octopus tails appeared on the spot. Roar. Upon appearing, Juki, without any hesitation, closed its eyes and fired a tailed beast bomb in the direction of Fugaku and the others. Looking at the massive, destruction-filled tailed beast ball, expressions of despair appeared on the faces of Fugaku and the other Uchiha. This is it. We're dead for sure. Chapter 34. I'm not like you. We can't escape. Damn it, we're going to die here. I can't accept dying like this. Damn those Kumagakure bastards. This direction. It shouldn't spill over toward the clan compound, right? They had long known some intel about tailed beasts, but only when they truly faced a tailed beast bomb did Fugaku Uchiha and the others grasp their own weakness. Before that annihilating power, they couldn't even flee. No matter how hard you tried, under such absolute force you'd be reduced to dust. The tailed beast bomb arrived in a blink. Just as Fugaku and the others shut their eyes to await death, a low voice rang out. Kamui, Fugaku, and the rest snapped their eyes open, only to see space twisting like a vortex. The tailed beast bomb that seemed capable of erasing everything vanished in an instant, leaving not the slightest ripple. It all happened in a heartbeat. Fugaku and the others panted heavily. The joy of surviving stripped their strength. They collapsed to the ground one after another. Those 2 are really a handful. Yuzuru watched as it became a streak of lightning and shouldered Killer Bee away, yet there was no disappointment on his face. Although he'd held an absolute advantage moments ago, actually killing A and Killer Bee wasn't so easy. After all, he had no intention of ending up like Sasuke Uchiha in the original timeline, going blind a few days after awakening the Mangekyo. Letting the enemy flee in panic was the best outcome for now. Yuzuru, that attack just now, how did you do it? Fugaku walked up to Yuzuru, incredulous. Transfer, Yuzuru said calmly. I used the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan to transfer that tailed beast bomb away, that's all. Hisses of shock spread. Fugaku and the others all gaped. They knew Yuzuru's Mangekyo could transfer objects, otherwise they would never have escaped Konoha so smoothly. But even something like a tailed beast bomb could be transferred. That was downright tyrannical. Heat rose in their chests. The way they looked at Yuzuru brimmed with hope. Yuzuru, can you tell us how to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan? If our Uchiha clan had a few more pairs of eyes like that, conquering the entire shinobi world might not be so far-fetched, right? At that, Yuzuru replied, in most cases, awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan requires extraordinary talent and relentless training. On top of that, You need to endure mental shocks that normal people can't bear just to have a chance at this power. Even then, most people who awaken the Mangekyo won't wield power like mine. Why? Fugaku asked, puzzled. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Power earned step by step through effort rarely ends up perfect. Yuzuru explained. His current might existed because, thanks to the system's rewards, he possessed cage-class standards in at least every area. With the Mangekyo awakening on top of that, his strength underwent a qualitative leap. Your average Uchiha, even with Mangekyo, couldn't become as strong as he was. Fugaku, a bit unconvinced, pressed. Then what about you? I'm different from you. Yuzuru smiled. I'm the man destined to be crowned king. There's nothing strange about anything I accomplish. All right, our clansmen are probably worried sick. You should head back. You're not coming. Things aren't over, Yuzuru said coolly. I'm going to pay Kumagakure a personal visit. He had defeated, and Killer Bee this time, but given those muscleheads' temperament in Kumagakure, they might well send more people. Rather than keep wasting eye power on this, better to end it once and for all, by meeting the third Reikage himself. Lord Reikage, Lord and Lord Killer Bee have returned. Hearing this, the third Reikage laughed. So it's done, send them in. Moments later, the office door opened, and the third Reikage's smile froze. His sun was smeared with dust. Even Killer Bee wore a rare look of defeat. Seeing this, the third Reikage asked in a deep voice, what happened? Lowered his head, shame in his tone. Father, our operation failed. The Yatsuki guard are all dead. Only Bee and I made it back. The third Reikage's face changed. An ambush? No. Clenched his fists. There's a man in the Uchiha Clan called Uchiha Yuzuru. He defeated me and Bee. If the Eight Tails hadn't released a tailed beast bomb, we might not have returned at all. At that thought, a chill ran through A. His own death would have been one thing, but if the Eight Tails had been taken by the Uchiha, he would have been a sinner to Kumagakure. The third Reikage was stunned into silence. No one knew, and Killer Bee took his strength better than he did. Even he struggled to withstand their combined assault. That was why he'd felt secure letting them leave the village with only a few jonin. But now, I was saying someone had defeated both him and Killer Bee. How was that possible? Isn't the Uchiha's strongest shinobi supposed to be Fugaku? Who is this Yuzuru? Shaking his head, answered. I don't know either. But according to the Eight Tails, that Uchiha Yuzuru possesses the legendary Mangekyo Sharingan. In front of those eyes, even the Eight Tails had no desire to fight. Mangekyo Sharingan. The third Reikage's gaze sharpened. As Reikage, though he hadn't lived through Madara Uchiha's reign of terror, he'd read plenty about the Mangekyo Sharingan. Back then, Madara used those eyes to unleash a rain of blood across the shinobi world. Only Hashirama Senju's would release could stand against him. And now those eyes had appeared again. At the thought, the third Reikage felt his blood stir. Father, I've let you down. Seeing Proud as so shaken, the third Reikage suddenly drove a fist into his face, blasting him across the room. Father, HMPH, the third Reikage snorted. Does a little setback reduce you to this? What do you think the Mangekyo Sharingan is? Even I can hardly resist the urge to fight such power. Losing to a Mangekyo wielder isn't what's frightening. What's pathetic is losing the courage to fight again. Take this failure as fuel to grow stronger. Don't make me look down on you. Tightened his fists and stood up. Father, I will. One day I'll defeat Uchiha Yuzuru and become the strongest shinobi in the world. Good. You and Bee go rest. Leave the rest to me. After and Killer Bee left, the third Reikage stared out the window, eyes blazing. The Uchiha truly were the mightiest clan. A bloodline like that, Kumagakure must obtain it at any cost. Chapter 35 Third Reikage. Are you threatening me? Late at night, Kumagakure. Towering mountain peaks pierced the clouds, creating an imposing atmosphere. Clouds drifted midway up the mountains, and the entire village seemed shrouded in a layer of black mist, hazy and indistinct. At the highest point in the village center, the doors of an austere house were shut tight. The third Reikage sat cross-legged, eyes closed, refining chakra. A breeze stirred. A voice shattered the night's stillness, thundering beside the third Reikage's ear. The night looks beautiful. Boom. Before the words had finished, the third Reikage's fist had already blasted through the wall and window in a single punch, yet his target stood unaffected in the moonlight, still as a phantom. Your Uchiha Yuzuru, Staring at those blood-red patterns, the third Reikage spoke coldly. Uchiha Yuzuru nodded. That's right. In the next instant, dozens of lightning release techniques swallowed Yuzuru whole. Then 4 colossal stone pillars burst from the ground, encircling him. Lightning snaked around the pillars, linking together into a thunder cage that trapped Yuzuru within. Dozens of Kumo shinobi emerged from the darkness, pouring chakra into the pillars without pause. To their astonishment, Yuzuru simply stepped forward like a mirage and walked out of the sealed thunder columns. Relax, don't be nervous. I'm just here to have a heart-to-heart talk with you. A talk. The third Reikage let out a cold laugh. You're afraid Kumagakure will attack the Uchiha, aren't you? Although I am very surprised that you were able to defeat an Killer Bee, that's all there is to it. If Kumagakure marches, you won't be able to protect the Uchiha. Yuzuru only shrugged. Likewise, if I move against Kumagakure, you won't be able to protect the rest of your shinobi. Killer Bee, your unripe prodigies, the old and the weak. Yuzuru rubbed his chin as if troubled. If war starts, who do you think I should target first? Oh, right. If I use these eyes to control the tailed beasts, then I won't have to struggle with the choice so much. The third Reikage's pupils tightened. Are you threatening me? What do you think? Silence fell. If Yuzuru were merely strong, the third Reikage would not have feared him. Since the village's founding, Kumagakure hadn't feared anyone, but Yuzuru's abilities were too unnatural. Not only did he possess the strength to defeat he had slipped through Kumagakure's barrier without a sound. Even the Reikage himself only sensed him after the man spoke first. Physical attacks were useless. Sealing techniques did nothing. Worst of all, as Yuzuru said, the Mangekyo Sharingan could control tailed beasts. If he really seized the 2 tails or the 8 tails, a few tailed beast bombs would turn Kumagakure into rubble. The more he thought, the more a crushing pressure spread through the third Reikage's chest, cold sweat beading on his skin. He'd rather fight another shinobi world war than provoke an enemy like this. Well, perhaps we really should have that heart-to-heart. The night truly is beautiful. Ha 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 ha. Watching the smile on the third Reikage's face, Yuzuru smiled as well. This outcome was exactly what he had expected. Faced with a specter who could deliver a fatal blow to the village at any moment, anything short of mutual destruction would be a losing trade. And the relationship between the Uchiha and Kumagakure was nowhere near that point. Seeing the Reikage and Yuzuru chatting and laughing, every Kumo shinobi present stood dumbfounded. Everyone in Kumagakure knew the third Reikage was a stubborn hothead, the kind who dared to clash head-on with the 8 tails in a mortal body. Anyone who defied him would be hammered into the floor. In every matter, he was overbearingly forceful, as if the word compromise didn't exist in his dictionary. Yet here he was compromising, laughing with an intruder. It felt like a dream, but disbelief didn't change reality. At the Reikage's invitation, Yuzuru walked shoulder to shoulder with him into the Reikage Tower. Truly, heroes can be young. Aside from my son, I've never seen a youth as outstanding as you. Yuzuru, right. Everything before was a misunderstanding. I hope you won't hold it against us. Yuzuru was a bit surprised by the third Reikage's conciliatory tone. He had assumed Kumagakure was full of blockheaded brutes. He hadn't expected this side of them. Still, he didn't put on airs. He smiled. Since the misunderstandings cleared up, I'll take my leave. Wait. The third Reikage suddenly stopped him. Yuzuru, now that your Uchiha have left Konoha, do you plan to stay in the land of rice fields forever? A small country like that has nothing. For a great clan like the Uchiha to hole up there is a waste of talent. Besides, Konoha has already branded you as rogue shinobi. They won't let it go. Other villages will covet your Sharingan and watch your every move. Even for you, opposing the entire shinobi world is unrealistic, isn't it? Yuzuru answered coolly. A short while ago, Kitsuchi from Iwagakure came to negotiate with us. They offered very generous terms. Iwagakure, the third Reikage's face changed as a sense of crisis surged. Kumagakure and Iwagakure were old enemies. If Yuzuru truly led the Uchiha to join Iwagakure, Kumagakure would be in danger. If war broke out, Yuzuru alone would make them suffer. Yuzuru, the third Reikage said at once, whatever that old fossil Anoki promised you, Kumagakure will pay double. A faint smile tugged at Yuzuru's lips. Hooked at last. If we join Iwagakure, Anoki will grant us land and industries to settle and grow, allow the Uchiha a degree of autonomy, and let us participate in the village's core decisions. The third Reikage fell silent for a moment, then said, "Very well. Kumagakure can agree to those terms." However, his gaze locked on Yuzuru. How do we ensure the Uchiha truly mean to settle in Kumagakure? T/N. Ah, did I forget to tell you that I'm the leader of the whole clan? Chapter 36. How dare you speak to your uncle Yuzuru like that? Though the Uchiha possessed a terrifyingly powerful Kekkei Genkai, and now had a powerhouse like Uchiha Yuzuru, strength alone didn't mean everything to a hidden village. If they weren't truly settling in Kumagakure, that power would become a hidden danger. To the third Reikage's concern, Yuzuru chuckled and said mildly, "Nothing could be simpler. Our Uchiha clan has no rule against marrying other shinobi. Really." The third Reikage slapped the desk so hard it exploded into splinters. In his original plan, it would be enough if the Uchiha settled down in Kumagakure in peace. Even if they couldn't contribute much, at least they wouldn't bring the village trouble. But now Yuzuru was saying they were willing to intermarry with Kumagakure's shinobi. First, let's be clear. While I'll allow marriages between the Uchiha and your shinobi, anyone who wants to marry an Uchiha woman must marry into our clan. Yuzuru stated his condition. The system's rewards were tied to the Uchiha population. Marriage was fine, but Uchiha women couldn't marry out of the clan. That's nothing. Agreed. The third Reikage waved it off without a care. As long as there was a blood bond with the village, the ties would be unbreakable. And as for the children's surname, was that really important? Also, the orphan of the Uzumaki clan will be joining Kumagakure with us. As long as it's an equal exchange, both Uchiha ninjutsu and Uzumaki sealing techniques can aid Kumagakure's shinobi in their training. Kumagakure's lightning release and body tempering methods were excellent. For many Uchiha with a lightning affinity, such an exchange was more than fair. Besides, he had no intention of leaving Kumagakure anyway. Sharing resources was truly win-win. Yuzuru, you've given me a real surprise. Back when the land of whirlpools was destroyed, it was because every nation feared the Uzumaki's sealing arts. And now, Kumagakure had a chance to obtain those very techniques. Add in the Uchiha's inherited ninjutsu resources, the third Reikage felt as if he were dreaming. Tonight's gains far exceeded his expectations. So this was the heritage of the foremost clan in the shinobi world. Terrifying. How foolish were those Konoha fools to drive a clan like the Uchiha out of the village. Finding Yuzuru more and more agreeable, the third Reikage strode forward, clasped Yuzuru's hand, and laughed heartily. "Yuzuru, from today on, you and I are brothers." That was Kumagakure's plain, straightforward way. Even closeness was sworn like this. Just then, the door to the Reikage's office was kicked open, a stormed-in seething. He jabbed a finger at Yuzuru and snarled, "You bastard, you dare come to our Kumagakure. I'll kill you right now." Before he could move, the third Reikage flickered behind him and smacked the back of his head. "Brat, how dare you speak to your uncle Yuzuru like that?" Rubbing his head in a daze, a glanced between the Reikage and Yuzuru, incredulous. "Uncle Yuzuru, you punk, if you're rude again, I'll slap you to death." The third Reikage shot a glare, then turned back to Yuzuru with a beaming smile. "Yuzuru, my son's not exactly young anymore. About a marriage alliance. Every Reikage had abandoned surname and given name alike, keeping only the codename A. So even if his son had to marry into another clan, the third Reikage didn't bat an eye. Yuzuru waved it off. "We advocate for freedom and love. That sort of thing depends on his own effort." Hearing their exchange, A, who just regained his senses, froze again. A marriage alliance, his brain seized up. His father wasn't under genjutsu, right? When Yuzuru returned to the Uchiha compound, Mikoto Uchiha and Kushina Uzumaki were both asleep on the table. At the sound of the door opening, they lifted their heads at once. The instant they saw Yuzuru, both of them rushed over. "Yuzuru, you're finally back." Mikoto clutched his arm, eyes slightly red. He'd been away so many days, going alone to a dangerous place like Kumagakure. She'd been worried sick. Yuzuru smiled, patting her back. "Mikoto, in this shinobi world, no one can threaten me. It's done. From now on, we'll settle in Kumagakure." Mikoto nodded, unconcerned. I'll follow your lead. As long as you're there, anywhere is fine. Catching Mikoto off guard, Yuzuru secretly winked at Kushina. To his surprise, Kushina stepped up and took his other arm. Hey, Kushina, Mikoto, I didn't do anything. Mikoto shot Yuzuru a sidelong look and pinched his waist, mock angry. Lucky you incorrigible flirt, Kushina huffed. While you were gone, I laid it all out with Mikoto. I'm done sneaking around. I want to hold you openly, too. At that, Yuzuru let out a sigh of relief. Looked like the battlefield at home had been resolved. All good. With an arm around each of them, he put on a helpless face. Honestly, I'm a very devoted man, but kind as I am, I can't harden my heart to turn away such pure girls. Sigh, the troubles of an excellent man. He took a deep breath. Smells so good, pervert. Kushina muttered and slipped free of his embrace. When this guy was serious, it was impossible to look away, but when he wasn't, you couldn't help but want to hit him. Yuzuru, I'll tell the former clan head you've returned. They've been waiting on your news all this time. Mikoto straightened up, gentle as ever. Yuzuru, are you hungry? I'll make you something. Go on then. Watching the two of them pretend to be busy, Yuzuru sighed helplessly. System, oh system, you've brought me such hardship. If it weren't for ensuring the Uchiha clan's population thrives, why would a pure-hearted boy like me end up in this situation? Chapter 37 Shinobi Hero. Forbearing Bear, Sunagakuer. The third Kazekage sat stone-faced, staring at Chiyo and Abizo without a word. After a long while, he exhaled and said, I miscalculated. I'll take responsibility for the loss of 5 jonin. Chiyo snorted, saying that now is pointless. We can't just let this go. The third Kazekage asked, Chiyo Ba-sama, let's hear your plan this time. Uchiha or Konoha shinobi. Konoha must pay for our losses, make them compensate us or we go to war. And from today, start pressuring Konoha along the border. Beside her, Abizo asked worriedly, Sister, the Uchiha have already become rogue nin. Will Konoha really agree to this? Even as her brother, Abizo felt Chiyo's idea was far-fetched, and our strength still trails Konoha's by a good margin. Chiyo sneered, saying confidently, with the Uchiha clan's mass defection, Konoha is at its weakest. We just have to start the brawl, others will join in. Don't forget how the last 2 shinobi world wars began. This fat piece of meat, no one's ever stopped eyeing it. The third Kazekage and Abizo straightened, excitement flashing in their eyes. She had a point. Kano Hagakure. Shimura Danzo pushed the door open and walked in, cutting straight to the point with Hiruzen Sarutobi. Hiruzen, my route was ambushed by Kumo shinobi at the border. We need an explanation from them. Hiruzen frowned. Why wasn't your route staying put in the village? What were they doing at the border? Danzo waved it off. Collecting intel, maybe planting a few spies in other villages. Never mind that. Those Kumagakure thugs are too arrogant. I say we teach them a lesson. Hiruzen took a few puffs from his pipe and finally sighed. Conflicts between villages are normal. If your subordinates died, you can only blame their lack of power. Starting a war over something so petty would only bring heavier casualties to the village. Danzo snapped. They're wiping their feet on your head and you're still backing down. Danzo. Hiruzen slapped the desk. Watch your tone. What? Is the great Hokage going to strike me? You, Hiruzen glared, then compromised. You can draw from village shinobi to make up Root's losses. HMP. Danzo dropped the rant and seriously considered which secret technique users to recruit. Just then, an Anbu flickered in. Lord Hokage, a scroll from Sunagakuer. Sunagakuer. Hiruzen took it, skimmed a few lines, and hurled it onto the desk in anger. Isn't this just bullying the wrong man? Curious at Hiruzen's outburst, Danzo picked up the scroll and, after reading, couldn't help but chuckle. The Uchiha had killed Tsunajonin, and now the third Kazekage wanted compensation from Konoha. He'd never heard of a village being liable for a rogue clan's actions. Have those people living in the desert gone mad for money? Hiruzen, shall we discipline a few Suna shinobi? Hiruzen shook his head. Let it go this time. They just want money. Pay them. Danzo had to admit, a person really does laugh when they are utterly speechless. What a forbearing bear. You've really opened my eyes. He gave a cold snort and strode out of the Hokage's office. If he stayed, he'd die of rage. Hiruzen felt wronged. If the Uchiha hadn't defected, would Suna and Kumo dare to loot a burning house? In the end, it was all the Uchiha's fault. 1 month later. Under the escort of Kumo ninja, all the members of the Uchiha clan arrived at Kumagakure. At the village gate, a huge banner hung high, silk streamers dancing in the wind. The third Reikage stood personally at the entrance to welcome the Uchiha from afar. Yuzuru, no trouble on the road. Thanks to the Reikage's protection, much appreciated. Ha 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 ha. After a brief exchange, the third Reikage and Yuzuru headed into the village. The Uchiha followed close behind. Inside Kumagakure, lofty peaks rose everywhere. Even the clouds reached only halfway up the mountains. The villagers' homes clustered around the foothills. The mountains themselves were crowned with massive administrative buildings. The Reikage Tower sat dead center, radiating dominance. Seeing such terrain for the first time, the Uchiha were full of wonder. In Konoha, aside from some low hills, it was all flat forest, like a different world compared to this place. Wow, so this is the Uchiha. No wonder they're a noble clan, so many people. So many handsome guys. I heard from Lord Reikage they're even open to marriage alliances. The women of Kumagakure are in luck. Is the one in front their leader, so young, and that face too gorgeous. I really want to spar. Let's see how strong the famed Sharingan really is. So fair, so delicate, totally unlike our rugged Kumo ladies. I'm begging you, let me marry into their clan. Get in line. Hearing the crowd's chatter, the Uchiha couldn't hide their excitement. Their anxiety about the future evaporated in an instant. They had never imagined, even in dreams, that the Uchiha would be this popular. So in other shinobi's eyes, our Uchiha have so many strengths. Yeah. Unlike those Konoha jerks who roll their eyes at us, I've only ever seen a scene like this in my dreams. They're too enthusiastic. Quick, check if I'm under genjutsu. Walking beside Yuzuru, Fugaku couldn't help but sigh. Yuzuru, with a reception this grand, even I'm overwhelmed. Lord Third Reikage, you're too thoughtful. The Third Reikage shook his head. This welcome was organized by the villagers themselves. A rough man like me wouldn't have thought of this. Is that so? Seeing Fugaku's surprise, Yuzuru patted his shoulder. Fugaku, don't let the past blind you. Open your eyes to the world. In Konoha, they shunned us and griped at us. But in other villages' eyes, as a noble clan with millennia of heritage, the Uchiha come with a powerful aura. Chapter 38 Polar Reversal. As a gesture of goodwill, the Uchiha clan's residential area was arranged next to the Yatsuki clan's compound. As the largest ninja clan in Kumagakure, the Yatsuki clan's status in the village was self-evident. Since the founding of Kumagakure, all successive Reikage have come from the Yatsuki clan. For this, the Uchiha clansmen naturally expressed their gratitude. With this mutual show of respect, the Uchiha clan officially settled down in Kumagakure. Another month passed, and the news of the Uchiha clan joining Kumagakure had spread throughout the entire ninja world. Although it didn't cause any major waves on the surface, the long stagnant political landscape of the ninja world had begun to quietly change. Kumagakure. Reikage Building. Under the guidance of the third Reikage, Yuzuru toured the Reikage Building. Looking at the portraits of the successive Reikage hanging on the wall, the third Reikage introduced them one by one, briefly explaining the history of Kumagakure. When he mentioned the founding of the village, a look of yearning appeared on his face. Yuzuru back then, Uchiha Madara with his Mangekyo Sharingan and Senju Hashirama pacified the warring states period. There were many powerful individuals in the ninja world, but none were their match. They used their immense power to make everyone bow down in submission. Although I am the Reikage of Kumagakure, I deeply admire the two of them. My greatest dream is to be like Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, to make my own village the most powerful hidden village in the ninja world. After speaking, the third Reikage looked at Yuzuru and said, now that the Senju clan has vanished, if our Kumagakure and the Uchiha clan join forces, is it possible to reach the heights that Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara once did? At that time, with Kumagakure as the most powerful hidden village, we would no longer be troubled by resources and war, right? Hearing this, Yuzuru said calmly. It is inevitable that Kumagakure will become the strongest hidden village, but if you want to be free from the troubles of war, that alone is not enough. Oh, the third Reikage glanced at Yuzuru with curiosity and asked, what did you have in mind? Back then, Konoha, possessing both Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, was the most powerful hidden village, but the Great Ninja War broke out immediately after their deaths. To achieve true peace, we must break the current structure. When all the lands in the ninja world have only one ruler, will things like war still exist? After hearing Yuzuru's words, the third Reikage's eyes widened in disbelief. Does he mean to unify the ninja world? Even though he had always been considered a hawk, a hardliner in Kumagakure, he had never thought of something like unifying the ninja world. No matter how he thought about it, it seemed a bit too crazy. And the third Reikage said in a deep voice, unifying the ninja world is no simple matter. Even if you succeeded, it would only shift the conflict from being between hidden villages to being between regions. Those living on fertile lands will still be coveted by those in barren regions. Yuzuru smiled. First, unifying the ninja world is not difficult. It can be achieved with absolute military power, and I am confident in that. Second, resources can be distributed. Just as a village takes care of its impoverished families after the ninja world is unified, all resources can be allocated centrally by the village. The third Reikage felt as if a door to a new world had been opened, and ideas he had never considered before began to flash through his mind. Finally, he looked at Yuzuru with a complicated gaze. Yuzuru, I don't know if letting you come to Kumagakure was the right decision or not. Yuzuru's ideas were a bit too crazy, but for some reason, they made his blood boil with excitement. If he could really accomplish what Yuzuru described, wouldn't he surely become an existence that surpasses even Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara? Just then, a middle-aged man with white hair and dark skin walked over. Mabuma, what is it? Lord Reikage, you are truly the greatest strategist in the ninja world. After the Uchiha joined Kumagakure, clients from all over have been lining up. Our village's mission requests. We're making a fortune. Hearing this, a smile curved Yuzuru's lips. To answer your earlier question, for now at least, having us Uchiha join Kumagakure was the right decision for you. Kumagakure. In the mission assignment hall, the staff were sweating profusely from the workload, yet the line of people at the window still seemed endless. The faces of the Kumo ninja were all beaming with happiness. How many years had it been? They had never been so flush with missions. There were too many missions to take. They couldn't possibly take them all, and the ones who brought about this change were the Uchiha Clan, who had joined the village not long ago. Those people in Konoha must be out of their minds to push a great ninja clan like the Uchiha out of their village. Yeah, a bunch of short-sighted fools. The Uchiha co-founded Konoha, yet they show no gratitude at all. But if they weren't so stupid, our Kumagakure wouldn't have had the chance to gain the Uchiha clan's support, right? Ha 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 ha. I'd love to see the looks on the faces of those guys in Konoha right now. Konohagakure. The mission assignment hall was deserted. Even lowering the fees for hiring ninja hadn't improved the situation. Although it attracted some minor clients to post missions, most of them were C-rank missions with pitifully low rewards. Ninja did not engage in production, but their expenses were high. They needed to eat a lot of meat to replenish their physical energy and buy various ninja tools to maintain their combat effectiveness. Daily training, medicinal baths, and treatment for injuries all required money. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio. Therefore, the number of missions a village received was crucial for its survival. Jonin started taking B-rank and C-rank missions. Chunin started taking C-rank and D-rank missions, and Genin could only be last in line. After all, for the same price, who wouldn't want to hire a stronger ninja? Under this internal competition, a large number of Genin couldn't get any missions at all. Many newly minted Genin could only survive on the relief funds distributed by the village. For a time, the once thriving village of Konoha took on a desolate and depressed air. In the streets and alleys, the direction of public opinion began to quietly change. If the Uchiha clan were still in the village, we wouldn't have to worry about not getting missions, would we? I never realized it before, but the name of a great ninja clan like the Uchiha is so important in the eyes of clients. If Lord Third Hokage doesn't find a solution soon, I won't even be able to eat, let alone support my family. Speaking of which, Even if there were irreconcilable differences, did the third really have no way to solve them? Now the situation has escalated to the Uchiha clan joining Kumagakure, the very village that killed the second Hokage, making our Konoha the laughingstock of the ninja world. The third Hokage needs to take responsibility. Are we supposed to just starve to death? Once the Uchiha clan's departure began to directly affect their own interests, most of the common people no longer felt the initial excitement and disdain. Compared to the ninja from other clans or the powerful Jonin, the ninja at the bottom of Konoha's hierarchy began to feel a sense of regret, regardless of anything else. At least when the Uchiha clan was in Konoha, they never had to worry about going hungry. Chapter 39, Eight Tails' rampage. Autumn gave way to winter, and 3 months passed in a flash. A blanket of silver, a heavy snow had turned the ninja world into a vast expanse of white. Kumagakure, Yuzuru Uchiha, and Kushina Uzumaki walked side by side down the street. Kushina's face was wreathed in a smile, her entire being exuding youthful vitality. Yuzuru glanced at Kushina and asked, "Kushina, I'm having dinner with Makoto tonight. Do you want to come?" Kushina stuck out her pink tongue, a little embarrassed. "Yuzuru, next time, I still have a mission." To this, Yuzuru could only sigh helplessly. Ever since coming to Kumagakure, Kushina had completely let herself go. She was immersed in carrying out missions every day, unable to pull herself away, not even wanting to rest for a single day. However, Yuzuru could understand. Having been locked in a cage for so long, now that she could finally experience the feeling of freedom, she definitely needed to vent. Seeing Yuzuru sigh, Kushina took the initiative to hold his hand. "Yuzuru, you're not mad at me, are you?" "Of course not." Yuzuru poked Kushina's forehead with a smile. "Didn't I bring you out of Konoha so you could live the life you want?" Hearing this, Kushina's eyes narrowed into slits as she smiled. She affectionately wrapped her arm around Yuzuru's, saying no more. "No longer being watched at every moment, being able to do whatever I want. This feeling is truly wonderful. Brother Yuzuru, Sister Kushina," a cheerful voice sounded from behind them. Yuzuru and Kushina turned to see Uchiha Obito bowing to a white-haired old woman before running towards them. "It's Obito." Yuzuru stopped and said coolly, "How have things been at the Ninja Academy recently? Are you being the dead last again?" Kushina patted Yuzuru's shoulder and chided, "Yuzuru, don't laugh at Obito. Obito is no rookie." Then she smiled and patted Obito's head. "Obito, have you made any new friends? See, Sister Kushina gets it." Obito proudly puffed out his chest. "I'm a big deal in class now. Lots of girls have written me love letters." Back in Konoha, he had never experienced such treatment. Yuzuru wasn't surprised to hear Obito's words. The so-called dead last status was only relative to people like Hatake Kakashi and Mike Guy. Moreover, it was mostly because Obito often made low-level mistakes, like getting bubble gum stuck in his mouth when using fire release, or still being distracted when a duel had already begun. But to most people in the ninja world, Obito's talent was actually quite good, most importantly. Compared to the other children in Kumagakure, Obito's looks were quite outstanding. Paired with his Uchiha clan's status and decent talent, it wasn't strange for him to become a popular figure at the academy. As the three were chatting, a loud explosion came from the distance. A violent surge of chakra shot up into the sky, and the people on the street turned pale with shock. "Kushina, let's end our date here. I'm going to check it out." Yuzuru frowned, preparing to head in the direction of the sound. "I'll go with you. I want to go too." Yuzuru tucked Obito under his arm and said to Kushina, "Then let's go together." Unreikaio. A vast lake lay cupped between rolling mountains. The giant Eight Tails thrashed its 8 thick octopus tentacles, constantly slapping the surface of the lake. By the time Yuzuru arrived, the third Reikage, Mabuma, and others were already there. What happened? Seeing Yuzuru, Mabuma explained, "According to the Anbu's observation, it seems the Eight Tails and Lord B had a falling out." "Why?" "Lord B promised the Eight Tails he would take it out of the village for fun, but he broke his promise." A clenched his fists in anger, saying with dissatisfaction, "That idiot! How could he make such a promise to the Eight Tails?" "Father, I'll stop the Eight Tails." Glancing at the third Reikage shook his head. "You're no match for the Eight Tails, I'll do it." Although Killer B and the Eight Tails had reached an understanding, it didn't mean the two could always get along peacefully. Once the Eight Tails became enraged, it was no different from a normal Jinchuriki rampage. To stop it, they could only use force to suppress it once more. This was also why they had Killer Bee live in Unreikaio. However, just as the third Reikage was preparing for the impending fierce battle, Yuzuru stepped forward. "Let me handle it instead." With those words, Yuzuru's figure vanished from the spot. Roar. Seeing the human who had appeared on its nose, the Eight Tails let out an angry howl to the heavens. Yuzuru frowned, displeased. "Juki, quiet down." The pattern of the Mangekyo Sharingan appeared in his eyes, and a powerful Dijutsu power brutally forced its way into the Eight Tails' spiritual world. The next second, the enraged Eight Tails froze in place, within the spiritual world. The Eight Tails looked at Yuzuru's Mangekyo Sharingan, a human-like apprehension on its face. Back then, Uchiha Madara had used the same eyes to capture it as if it were a mere animal. "Juki, can you quiet down now?" Hearing this, the Eight Tails' large, bell-like eyes widened in disbelief. "How do you know my name?" Even Killer Bee didn't know its name was Juki. Yuzuru said calmly, "I know everything about you tailed beasts, and in the future I will let you live the lives you desire." "You." A distant memory surfaced in the Eight Tails' mind. It said in shock, "Are you the one who will lead the change that the old man spoke of?" "Perhaps." Yuzuru shrugged, offering no further explanation. "The era when humans and tailed beasts live in harmony is not far off. Until then, it would be best if you didn't cause me any trouble." Juki grumbled with some dissatisfaction, "But I want to go out and play." "I can grant that request. From now on, have Killer Bee communicate with me about any issues." Yuzuru smiled. The tailed beasts had lived for so many years, but in some ways they were still like children. "Then I understand. I won't try to easily snatch control of the body from Bee anymore." It had already reached an understanding with Killer Bee, and now its wish could be granted. Naturally, it had no reason to continue making a fuss. After receiving Juki's promise, Yuzuru left its spiritual world. At the same time, in Unreikaio, Juki's massive body disappeared. Seeing this, the Kumo ninja who had been on high alert all stared with their mouths agape in shock. Wait. The Eight Tails rampage was resolved just like that. Chapter 40 Isolation. Unbelievable, so this is the power of the Sharingan. Great. The Eight Tails rampage was handled just like that. We won't have to worry about this anymore. Kumagakure is so lucky to have the Uchiha. I'm tempted to write Konoha a thank you letter. Ha 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 ha. Though Yuzuru and Juki spoke for a while in the mindscape, in the real world it was over in an instant. To the people of Kumagakure, Yuzuru had simply flickered to the Eight Tails' face, barked one word, "Quiet," and the beast meekly returned to Killer Bee's body. Such a thing had never happened before. Even the third Reikage had to fight the Eight Tails to exhaustion every time just to barely suppress it. If the beast used a tailed beast technique during battle, the village could suffer massive losses. But now, Yuzuru had resolved the rampage with casual ease, leaving the ever-ready Kumo shinobi feeling like they were dreaming. As Yuzuru walked over, I couldn't help asking, "How did you do that?" Yuzuru pointed at his eyes. "There's nothing these eyes can't do. Their power exceeds your imagination." Memories of that fight with Yuzuru flashed through A's mind, his emotions roiling. No wonder even father could only compromise when facing him. How much power was still hidden in those Mangekyo Sharingan. Shouldering aside, the third Reikage thumped Yuzuru's shoulder. "Good brother. With you here, we won't have to fear tailed beast rampages again." Yuzuru shook his head. "Lord Third, I can't watch Killer Bee every moment. If you want to stop rampages, pure suppression isn't the way. Let Bee go out on missions now and then. Treat the tailed beast as a trusted comrade, not just a weapon." The third Reikage hesitated. "But, if other villages learn the Jinchuriki is outside, it could cause big trouble." Senda with him. The brothers' combined strength can handle most situations. After a moment, the third nodded. "We'll do it your way. Killer Bee can go on outside missions with A, but I'll assign 2 Anbu teams for covert protection. Handle it as you see fit." Yuzuru waved it off. "By the way, we've almost finished compiling Uchiha Ninjutsu and Uzumaki sealing techniques. I'll have copies delivered later. Reinforcing a few seals will also help prevent rampages." The third Reikage's face lit up. Excellent. I'll have people coordinate immediately, and Kumagakure's secret techniques will be sent to your compound today. Good. That straightforward style was one reason Yuzuru chose Kumagakure back in Konoha. Hiruzen guarded powerful forbidden and secret arts like treasures, never willing to share. Anoki and Iwagakure wouldn't be much different. As for Sunagakure, he couldn't be bothered. All right, drinks. I'm still underage, and the 3 taboos for shinobi. What bullshit, 3 taboos, we don't care about that here. Tonight we drink till we drop. You're coming too. Yes, sir. Dragged off by the 3rd rakeage, Yuzuru could only give Kushina a helpless wave. Kushina, let Mikoto know for me. Kushina nodded with a smile. Wherever he was, Yuzuru shone the brightest. She couldn't help feeling secretly relieved. If she hadn't left Konoha and had truly become a Jinchuriki, her life might be worse than Bitakes right now. Instead, she could happily take missions without anyone watching her every move. Meeting Yuzuru was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. Beside her, Obito Uchiha's eyes sparkled as he slid his goggles down. Wow, big bro Yuzuru is so cool. He's the me in my dreams. Sister Kushina, when you and brother Yuzuru are sleeping together in the future, you have to put in a good word for me. Get brother Yuzuru to teach me a few things. Kushina flushed from neck to ears. She seized Obito by the ear. You little brat, what nonsense are you spouting? You're coming with me to find Mikoto, now. Oh, sis Kushina, can I go do my own thing first? I promised Grandma we'd go hiking. As the two disappeared down the street, Kumagakure's Anbu quickly gathered around Killer Bee. After a while, Bee stirred, rubbing his head. Owa. You lost control again just now, Lord Bee, and Anbu said earnestly. You nearly brought disaster to the village. If Lord Yuzuru hadn't stopped you, you'd be confined again. The villagers will be disappointed. Seeing the fear and distance in their eyes, Bee rose and windmilled his arms. Yo, the Eight Tails' power makes Kumo better each day. If you fear splash damage, that's on your weak display. Come here, Uncle Bitakes rap today. Keep chirping and I'll dunk you in the lake to stay Bakearo Kanoyero. After finishing his rap, Killer Bee spun around, gave everyone present the rock signs and then left coolly. If you don't like me, then I'll isolate you, HMPH. Late at night, reeking of alcohol, Yuzuru returned to the compound. Those 2 third rakeage and A were like a pair of bulls. If he hadn't quietly shunted the liquor into Kamui's space, they really would have drunk him under the table. He was still a kid, at his door, before he could open it. Mikoto Uchiha came running from the side. Yuzuru, I made sobering soup. Drink it before you sleep. Seeing the steaming bowl in her hands, warmth stirred in Yuzuru's chest. Mikoto, you waited in this cold just for me. Mikoto lowered her head. Kushina said you were dragged off to drink, so I worried you'd feel unwell. A perfect wife template. Looking at gentle, water-soft Mikoto, Yuzuru felt a tug of desire. Mikoto, I'm not feeling great. Walk me back to my room. That's not really proper. What's improper? I won't do anything. What's not good about it? It's not like I'm going to do anything. Following the direction of her finger, Yuzuru spotted Lihuo Uchiha's gloomy face. Senior Lihuo, you're still up. Lihuo pointed at the brazier at his feet and snorted. I'm stoking the fire. Mikoto, inside. Okay, bang. Staring at the closed door, Yuzuru rubbed his nose, a little embarrassed. Could time hurry up? I want to grow up already. Chapter 41 New Clan Rules Uchiha Compound. In the newly built Naka Shrine, Uchiha Yuzuru took the head seat for the first time as clan chief. The Uchiha elite sat below him, eyes firm. They'd left Konoha only a few short months ago, yet everyone's spirit had been reborn. Today's clan meeting is to share good news. Not long ago, we traded our clan's ninjutsu resources for all of Kumagakure's body-tempering secrets and lightning release techniques. These arts suit the Uchiha perfectly. I'm certain everyone's strength will climb higher in the days ahead. At that, excited looks spread among the Uchiha. Since arriving in Kumagakure, many had sparred with Kumo shinobi. What impressed them most were Kumo's taijutsu methods. If they could combine those arts with the Sharingan, the power unleashed would be tremendous. Thinking of this, Yakumi Uchiha raised his hand. Clan Chief Yuzuru, can all of us train these body arts? Yuzuru smiled. Of course. Everyone can learn the introductory secrets and techniques freely. The higher-level ones come with a small condition. What condition? Make a sufficient contribution to the clan's population, Yuzuru said evenly. For each child you have, you may choose one high-level secret art from the clan. Families with 5 or more children may train any techniques in the clan as they wish. Naturally, the clan will issue a child-rearing fund for every child, cover free medical care and all educational costs until graduation from the Ninja Academy. Even children without the talent to become shinobi will be placed in jobs that can support a household, so there's no need to worry about heavy burdens. Additionally, if you haven't married and had children by the age of 20, you'll no longer receive clan benefits. Now that things had stabilized, it was time to put population growth first. The policies surprised many at first, but the more they thought, the more reasonable they seemed. Back in Konoha, Yuzuru had already spoken of strengthening the clan by increasing its numbers. "I've said my piece. Please raise your hands to vote." Arms shot up in unison. Everyone knew that without Yuzuru, the Uchiha would never be enjoying this life. Whatever clan Chief Yuzuru wanted to do, they would support unconditionally. Besides, both secret arts and high-level ninjutsu were priceless. An ordinary person would be lucky to obtain a single B-rank technique in a lifetime. Ninjutsu ranks denote training difficulty in principle, but for clarity in this story, rank also reflects a technique's strength and value. Of course, strength here compares techniques under equal casting conditions. A strong user pouring chakra into a C rank can still exceed a weak user's A rank. And now, all they had to do was have a few children to gain what countless people dreamed of. Put that offer outside and the world would go mad. All right, that's it for today's meeting. Be sure to publicize this properly among the clan. Yuzuru finished and turned to leave. Fugaku Uchiha hurried after him. Once they left the Naka shrine, Fugaku asked with some worry, "Yuzuru, if we reward people as you promised, the industries the third raikage granted us won't cover the cost." The third had given them holdings to keep the clan running, but this welfare seemed extravagant. Yuzuru stopped and looked at Fugaku. "Have you forgotten we still have many assets in the Land of Fire? With those included, we won't have funding issues even if our population grows tenfold." Fugaku scratched his head, baffled. Land of Fire assets, hadn't they defected? "Given our situation, Konoha has probably swallowed our properties already," he said. "Then we'll make them spit it out." "Ha, you think Hiruzen Sarutobi will agree?" Seeing Fugaku's earnest face, Yuzuru clapped his shoulder and spoke patiently. "Fugaku, we left Konoha, but we didn't walk away empty-handed. What right does Hiruzen have to take what was ours? If they won't give it back, we'll keep pushing until they do. I imagine the third raikage will be delighted to take action against Konoha." Fugaku gaped. "We can do that." Yuzuru lifted a hand. "Just learn from me." A carter drove a supply-laden wagon along a muddy road. A silk-clad, slightly plump man sat opposite him. On either side walked a pair of burly guards. A stern-faced strode ahead, while Killer Bee followed with pencil and notebook in hand. A tiny Juki perched on Bitakesh's shoulder, peering about with curiosity. Atop the stacked cargo, a handsome youth in Uchiha fan attire sat cross-legged. "So it really won't work." Yuzuru slowly opened his eyes, displeasure on his face. Among the resources exchanged with Kumagakure was the method for training lightning release chakra. Yet after many attempts, he still couldn't master it. His body simply couldn't withstand the violent energy of training in the lightning release chakra mode. Hearing Yuzuru's voice, I let out a smug snort. "Kid, did you think anyone could train Kumo's lightning release chakra mode? Without a body on par with a tailed beast, forcing it will only put you in danger. My advice, give it up before you ruin yourself." Yuzuru didn't argue. Harsh as A's words were, they were true. For now, he could only stimulate his cells by gentler means to improve speed, strength, and reaction. As for lightning release chakra mode, he might have to wait until he transplanted Hashirama cells or white Zetsu cells. Chapter 42, Ambush. "By the way, why are you tagging along on our mission?" Sigh. "Your dad's worried. He told me to watch over you." At that, A snorted, arms crossed, and fell silent. Seriously, ever since he lost to Yuzuru, father hasn't trusted him at all. He'd taken this escort job as an excuse to help Killer Bee unwind, and now he even had to find Yuzuru to keep an eye on him. Sooner or later, he'd defeat Yuzuru and prove himself. Seeing the two go quiet, the short, heavyset man sitting at the front of the cart said, "Folks, it's almost noon. How about we eat something before we push on?" A said blandly. "You're the client. Your call." The man wiped sweat from his brow and ventured, "Then let's stop for a bit. I haven't introduced myself. I'm Yuta Shiraishi. Our goal is to escort this cargo to the land of frost." A, impatient, said, "It's all written in the mission brief. No need to repeat it." Yuta Shiraishi immediately lowered his head and started chewing on his rations. Yuzuru shot a glare. "Be a little courteous to the client. Otherwise, the business Kumagakure fought hard to win is going to dry up in days." A tossed a soldier pill into his mouth. "Got it. Then smile. Yuzuru, don't push your luck. I'm your uncle. If you don't behave, I'll tell the third." I drew a deep breath and forced a smile onto his face. Before it fully formed, Yuzuru waved him off. "Don't, it's ugly as hell." I must endure him. I clenched his fists until they crackled, forcing himself not to lash out. Getting pounded would only make him feel even more stifled. Killer Bee suddenly broke into a dance. New inspiration strikes. Big bro is a blockhead. Yo tilde becaero, canoiero, ha 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 ha. Watching A's expression curdle like he'd swallowed dung, Yuzuru couldn't help bursting into laughter. "That's what you get for mocking me. See how that stings." When he finished laughing, Yuzuru turned to Yuta Shiraishi. "Master Yuta, you look like you've got something to say, right?" Yuta glanced at her, who had stalked off a short distance, then said, About this escort. Are we really settling it at a C-rank fee?" He'd posted a simple C-rank request, yet Kumagakure had sent A, Killer Bee, and Yuzuru to guard him. He'd heard stories about A and Killer Bee in taverns. Both were widely acknowledged as top shinobi of Kumagakure, and that young man was the very Yuzuru who'd been the talk of the village lately, the one who successfully led the Uchiha in defecting from Konoha. This kind of arrangement made Yuta feel like he had unintentionally fallen into some massive vortex, feeling as if his life was in danger at any moment. Otherwise, why would such powerhouses move for the most ordinary of C-rank missions? Sensing his worry, Yuzuru reassured him, "Relax. We're fair to everyone and will absolutely guarantee your safety." Hearing Yuzuru's promise, Yuta let out a breath. With someone this strong vouching for him, maybe he wouldn't die after all. After a quick meal and a short rest, the group hit the road again. With periodic stops, they soon reached the border between the land of rice fields and the land of frost. And Killer Bee walked in front, Yuzuru behind them, the three forming a ring around the cart. Suddenly, the twang of a snapped line rang out. An instant later, explosive tags detonated with a roar, flames swallowing the cart, and the figures of Yuzuru and the others. Three shinobi wearing leaf headbands emerged from the fields. One said coldly, "Let those blind fools who hired Kumagakure shinobi repent in hell." No sooner had he spoken than Yuzuru, A, and Killer Bee walked over from a distance. "You didn't really think such a clumsy trap would fool us, did you?" The Konoha shinobi arched a brow. "So you noticed early. That was just a shadow clone," flexed his fists, eyes blazing. "Finally, a chance to vent rats who only skulk and hide," one leaf shinobi smirked. "You dodged one trap and think victory's yours." As he finished, 6 more shinobi with leaf headbands appeared, encircling Yuzuru, A, and Killer Bee. "You're already surrounded." Yuzuru ignored the posturing and said evenly, 9 of you, 3 squads. Perfect, 1 squad each." A nodded. "Works for me." Killer Bee said nothing. Pencil in hand, he kept his eyes glued to his notebook, still lost in his own world. "Go." The moment Yuzuru spoke, A's figure vanished. When he reappeared, he was already in front of a Konoha squad. Liger bomb. Before one leaf shinobi could react, A seized him and slammed him into the ground. Boom! As their comrade's skull burst and lightning danced around A's body, the other 2 leaf shinobi lunged. Kunai aimed for his heart. A sneered and smashed the one before him with a single punch, bones shattering. Behind him, the last leaf shinobi's strike failed to pierce even the lightning release armor. How is that possible? Crack, a twist, and the shinobi's neck snapped. In mere seconds, an entire squad lay dead. On the other side, 3 leaf shinobi hurled shuriken, kunai, and explosive tags at Killer Bee in a relentless barrage. A thunderous blast shook the earth. Before they could celebrate, a thick octopus tail lashed out of the smoke, caving in one shinobi's chest on the spot. What is that monster? The other two stared at the massive octopus limbs sprouting from Killer Bee, terror flooding their faces, hands raised. Killer Bee swayed to a beat only he could hear. Freely wielding a tailed beast's power, this boss is a phantom made real. Burn the name of Kumagakure's perfect Jinchuriki into your minds. B tilde with a casual flick, the pencil, sheath in lightning release chakra, drilled through a leaf shinobi's forehead. Perfect. Jinchuriki. Quit joking. How could a Jinchuriki use the tailed beast's power at will? At their despairing cry, Killer Bee pointed at Yuzuru. The Sharingan can suppress a tailed beast. Using its power isn't a burden anymore. Yo Bekearo, Kanoiaro, he glanced at Yuzuru, puzzled. Why haven't you moved yet? According to the plan, the 3 Konoha shinobi assigned to Yuzuru had already grabbed their lone surviving comrade from Bitake's side and were sprinting toward the deep woods. Yuzuru still didn't stir. I have my own plan. B didn't press. For him, this trip was about unwinding. Letting a few insignificant Konoha shinobi escape didn't matter. A, however, was nothing like B. Scowling, he snapped, "Cut the act. I'm killing every last one of them." Just as he was about to give chase, a storm of needle-like projectiles whistled toward them. Ninja Art, Needle Jizo, Chapter 43, Jiraiya, Earth Release, Earth-style wall, Yuzuru's hands flashed through seals. A thick earthen wall surged up out of the ground, blocking the storm of white needles like senbon. Earth Release, Swamp of the Underworld, a vast bog opened from nowhere. The ground turned to mire beneath them, and the group began to sink. Next, a sea of flame billowed over them. Fire Release, Great Flame Bomb of Oil, under the searing heat, wrapped himself in lightning and shot backward to safety. Killer Bee drew on the Eight Tails' power, armoring his body against the blaze. As for Yuzuru, he had already retreated the instant he finished the Earth-style wall, so he was barely affected. Damn it, clenched his fists and was about to trigger his lightning release chakra mode to chase the fleeing leaf shinobi when Yuzuru lifted an arm, blocking his path. Fixed his gaze on Yuzuru, voice cold. "Why are you stopping me?" "Just a friendly reminder," Yuzuru said evenly. "If you want to fight Jiraiya of the legendary Sannin, be my guest." That was Jiraiya just now, frowned. Yes, with that confirmation, abandoned the chase. Back in the Second Shinobi World War, Jiraiya had already shaken the ninja world. He was one of its top powers today. If they could help it, no one wanted to fight a monster like that. What's more, I didn't know why Jiraiya was here, or whether other Konoha elites lurked nearby. He was reckless, not stupid. He wouldn't take a risk that big, however. Stared hard at Yuzuru and demanded, "Why did you deliberately let those leaf shinobi go?" With Yuzuru's strength, if he'd moved, those leaf ninja wouldn't have had the slightest chance to escape. Just a short while ago, when facing the 4 Kumagakure Jonin, including Yatsuki Mamoru, Yuzuru had slaughtered them in an instant. "Because I need them to do something for me," Yuzuru replied mildly. "What?" "Tell the people in Konoha that the Sharingan can prevent a Jinchuriki from going berserk." "Lord Jiraiya, we can't thank you enough. If you hadn't arrived when you did, we'd have died to those Kumagakure shinobi. Seriously, walking away from a Kumagakure Jinchuriki is a miracle. It's just a pity about our fallen comrades, if they'd held on a little longer." Takabana Hiko, Yamada Koshi, Hojo Shinroku, and Tetsu Harada bowed to Jiraiya, relief plain on their faces. After hearing them out, Jiraiya didn't joke as he usually did. He frowned deeply. "Kumagakure has a perfect Jinchuriki," Takabana answered at once. "Yes, the big guy with the sunglasses, the one who kept dancing around like he had ants in his pants." He called himself B, and he could freely use the Eight Tails' power. Jiraiya blinked, surprised. "Truly?" Yamada and Harada jumped in. "It's true, we all saw it," Jiraiya nodded. "If there's nothing else, head back to the Leaf Village. You won't come with us." "No, I may return a few days later. You go on ahead." "Understood." They didn't pry. After bowing again, they turned and hurried toward the village. When the 4 had gone, Jiraiya remained seated where he was. Ever since discovering Nagato's Rinnegan, he had stayed in Aimgakure. He had spent 3 years training the child who might be the one from the great Toad Sage's prophecy. The one who would bring change to the shinobi world. He hadn't expected so much to happen in the meantime. Tsunade had left the village. The Uchiha, who now boasted Mangekyo Sharingan, had collectively defected, and Kumagakure had produced a Jinchuriki who could use a tailed beast's power freely. One thing after another weighed on Jiraiya's heart, making it hard to breathe. He had a feeling that the current peace wouldn't last long. War would come again. Before that, he needed to visit Mount Mayaboku and see whether the great Toad Sage had any new guidance. Kano Hagakure, Hokage's office, smoke coiled in the air as ever. Sarutobi Hiruzen puffed steadily on his pipe. Shimura Danzo, Uchiha Koharu, Mitokado Hamura, and Hatake Sakumo stood quietly to the side. At length, Sarutobi's voice rumbled. "Is there truly nothing we can do?" Uchiha Koharu nodded. "Lady Mito's life force is nearly spent. She may not last the night." "I understand." Sarutobi set his pipe down, tone turning hard. "I don't care what schemes any of you are nursing. Tonight is critical. Everything will proceed under my command alone." His authority washed over the room. He met each set of eyes in turn. When no one objected, he continued, "Sakumo, muster the Anbu. Lock down the village. Be ready to fight at a moment's notice." "Yes." Hatake Sakumo departed to carry out the order. Sarutobi turned to Danzo. "Danzo, set route in position. If danger arises, evacuate the villagers immediately." "Understood." Koharu, Hamura, notify the clan heads. "If the Ninetales goes on a rampage, they're to lead their shinobi to support me at once." "Right." After giving his orders, Sarutobi led a handful of bodyguards to a small cabin outside the village. Members of the Medical Corps and the Sealing Corps waited outside, ready to move at once. Inside, Uzumaki Mito lay on the bed, utterly frail. Seeing Sarutobi enter, she struggled to sit up. "Monkey, let's begin." "Yes, Lady Mito." He turned to Namikaze Minato, who had come with them. "Minato, are you certain? Once you become a Jinchuriki, there's no room for regret." Minato's usual gentle smile warmed his face. "Lord Hokage, I have no regrets." If he'd asked the third sooner to become the Ninetales Jinchuriki, perhaps Kushina wouldn't have left the village, though even if she'd stayed, a request like his might never have been granted. Seeing Minato's resolve, Sarutobi said no more. Minato was an orphan with no complicated background. He was Jiraiya's pupil, staunchly loyal. He had the resolve to protect Konoha even at the cost of his life. His temperament and talent were both first-rate. Sarutobi could think of no better candidate. "Sealing Corps, prepare," he ordered. The seal on Uzumaki Mito's body was unraveled. A malevolent chakra began to leak into the air. At the same time, a flood of extreme negative emotions battered the minds of everyone nearby. Dozens of members of the Sealing Corps immediately channeled their chakra, striving to transfer the Ninetales chakra from Uzumaki Mito into Namikaze Minato. Chapter 44, Ninetales I Can't Hold On. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. Under the influence of the Ninetales chakra, members of the Sealing Squad collapsed one after another. Although replacements rushed in immediately, the seal still began to fail in countless places. The leaking chakra had already gathered into a towering, blood-red silhouette. Adamantine sealing chains. Several chains of golden light burst from Uzumaki Mito's body, lashing around the Ninetales chakra and pinning it down. But Mito's already fading life force plummeted again. Seeing this, Hiruzen Sarutobi said grimly, "Speed it up." "Yes." By the time dawn broke gray over the horizon, Uzumaki Mito's final breath had left her, and the Ninetales was sealed completely into Namikaze Minato's body. Everyone present wiped the sweat from their faces. The Ninetales' power was far more ferocious than they'd imagined. If not for Uzumaki Mito's desperate suppression, tonight could have ended in catastrophe. "Good work, everyone. Go get some rest." "Yes, Lord Hokage." With the sealing complete, people began to rise and prepare to leave. But the next second, a ninja from the Sealing Squad had blood trickling from the corner of her mouth, an expression of disbelief in her eyes. Looking down, she saw that her chest had been pierced by beast-like claws. "Damn it, Minato has lost control." Hiruzen tore off the Hokage's ceremonial cloak, revealing a lean, battle-hardened frame. The ever-watchful Anbu immediately formed up to shield him. Minato's eyes had become crimson slits. Terrifying chakra poured off him, condensing and swelling in mere moments. The Ninetales' colossal body loomed before them. "Roar." With a sky-shaking howl, the Ninetales slammed an enormous claw into the earth. A spider web of cracks laced out in all directions. I'm finally out. You damned humans. After so many years, it could finally see the light again. It had once lived a leisurely life in the forests, until two bastards showed up muttering, "You're too dangerous," and "You must be sealed," then beat it senseless without a word. In the end, they'd sealed it away to use its power. HMPH, Konoha cure was it tonight. It would raze this village to the ground. The more it thought, the angrier it grew. The Ninetales swiped at the ants scurrying below. In an instant, several shinobi who couldn't dodge were crushed to pulp. Summoning technique, Monkey King Enma. The summoned Enma stared at the rampaging beast. "Hiruzen, what's going on?" "No time to explain," Hiruzen said, voice like iron. Transform adamantine staff. With one mighty sweep, he drove the Ninetales back hundreds of meters. The prepared barrier squad leapt into action, erecting a barrier that trapped the beast inside. The Ninetales hurled its massive body against the barrier again and again, making it shudder on the brink of collapse. Yet it held. Damned humans. You won't cage me again. The Ninetales raised its head. A torrent of chakra gathered before its maw, coalescing into a small tailed beast ball. Boom! At the Ninetales' command, the bomb detonated. The sturdy barrier shattered into fragments. Most of the barrier squad died or were maimed in the blast. Damn it. Hiruzen hadn't expected the Ninetales to be this troublesome. Even with full preparations, it had broken free. Go, stop the Ninetales and protect the village. At his order, the Anbu charged the beast. Wind release, great breakthrough. Fire release, great flame technique. A storm of ninjutsu hammered the Ninetales, but none of it mattered. It only enraged the beast further. With a sweep of its claws, Anbu fell in droves. Just then, a blade flashed like lightning. Hadake Sakumo dashed to the Ninetales, striking its body with relentless surgical cuts. But even a swordsman famed for one-strike kills found his blows useless. On the Ninetales, they scarcely stung, even wounds carved out with everything he had sealed up within seconds under the monster's terrifying regeneration. Under the brutal tempo of battle, Sakumo's strength flagged within 10 minutes. "Sakumo, fall back," Hiruzen barked, hands flying through seals. Multiple shadow clone technique, 4 clones appeared. Planting the adamantine staff in the earth, Hiruzen and his 4 doubles wove signs in unison. Ninja art, 5 release great combo technique. Wind, lightning, water, fire, and earth combined into a devastating fusillade that engulfed the Ninetales' vast frame. As expected of Lord Hawkage, that's amazing. This has to finish it. Even the Ninetales can't withstand that. What power, truly the strongest Hawkage, hope flared in their chests, praise breaking out around the field. The next second, a colossal claw tore out of the rolling smoke. Crash, it came down, and dozens died in a heartbeat. So this is the current Hawkage. Compared to that bastard from back then, you're sorely lacking. Tonight, none of you will stop me. Reinforcements from the various clans arrived one after another. At Hiruzen's command, elite shinobi poured into the fight. Though the Ninetales raged, it couldn't kill them all at once. As the battle reached a fever pitch, a figure in a black cloak and a spiral-patterned mask suddenly appeared on the Ninetales' shoulder. How foolish, Ninetales. At this rate, it won't be long before you exhaust all your energy and are sealed again. Beyond slaughtering a few inconsequential leaf shinobi, nothing will change. The Ninetales turned its head, cold light glinting in its vertical pupils at the human who had appeared upon it. It didn't strike immediately, because it saw a pair of eerie scarlet eyes. Eyes too similar to the ones that had once brought it endless humiliation. "Who are you? What do you want?" the Ninetales asked warily. "I'm merely someone whose goal happens to align with yours," the masked man said blandly, lifting a hand to point toward the hidden leaf. "Use the chakra you have left. Fire a tailed beast bomb at the village. Shinobi can dodge, buildings can't. A human choosing to help a tailed beast." The Ninetales sounded amused. "You hate them that much." "Hate," the masked man shook his head. "Rather than hate, let's say, it's more that they are not to my liking." At that, the Ninetales burst into laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha, interesting. Very well, let it be as you wish. A tailed beast's chakra is not infinite. Its sheer volume and rapid recovery only create the illusion. After continuous, high-intensity combat, Even a tailed beast needs time to restore chakra, stamina, and focus. And with sealing arts suppressing it, the time it had left was indeed short. Chapter 45. Have you realized any of your mistakes? Everyone, look, who's that standing on the Ninetales' shoulder? I don't know. A swirl mask. Such a strange outfit, I've never seen it before. The Ninetales looks like it stopped. What's going on, could it be? All eyes turned to Hiruzen Sarutobi, but bewilderment clouded his face as well. For the moment, he couldn't make sense of it. What did this sudden intruder do to make even the Ninetales fall quiet? Friend or foe? The Ninetales' next move gave everyone the answer. It suddenly shifted, squaring its body toward the hidden leaf village. Its head tilted back as a massive tailed beast bomb condensed in the air, waves of annihilating pressure rolling out. Faces blanched across the field, Hiruzen's included. A tailed beast bomb, and aimed that way. Not good, stop it now. Hiruzen's shout snapped the leaf shinobi to action. If that enormous tailed beast bomb detonated inside the village, everything would be over. Instantly, everyone desperately channeled the chakra in their bodies, trying to draw the Ninetales' attention away from the village just as they had before. But this time, the beast ignored them completely. And then, before their despairing eyes, the giant-tailed beast bomb kicked up a violent shockwave and streaked toward the village. A huge sphere of light blossomed from nowhere, the earth shuddering in fury. Even the air around it looked twisted and warped. Only after dozens of seconds did the thunderous blast reach them. Those expressions, truly delightful, gazing down at the anger, unwillingness, fear, despair, and grief warping the leaf shinobi's faces, the Ninetales smiled with smug satisfaction. A heartbeat later, its massive body vanished, leaving only Namikaze Minato unconscious on the ground. Catch the masked guy, Hiruzen growled through clenched teeth. It had to be that bastard's prompting that turned the beast back on the village. Whoever he was, he could not be allowed to walk away. As the leaf shinobi surged in, the spiral-masked man clapped his hands. A low voice rang in every ear. Secret technique. Hiruzen and the Anbu halted at once, bracing themselves against the mysterious foe. Anyone who could make the Ninetales behave was not to be underestimated. The masked man's tone turned mocking in the next instant. Shadow clone technique, release. Pop, as a puff of white smoke dissipated in midair, the expressions on Hiruzen Sarutobi and the others' faces became as ugly as if they had eaten dirt, played for fools. Atop the Hokage rock, Uchiha Yuzuru stood on the head of Tabarama Senju, looking down from on high at the wailing villagers of the Hidden Leaf. After deliberately letting those leaf shinobi escape last time, he had slipped in with Kamui. He'd intended to use the Mangekyo Sharingan to drive Uzumaki Mito into a rampage, but sensing how little life she had left, he changed his mind. Rather than waste his Dojutsu power, he chose to wait a few quiet days. Without Uzumaki Kushina, the leaf had no one who could perfectly suppress a complete Ninetales, and so it went. The moment Uzumaki Mito died, the beast tore free. Nearly 1,000 shinobi dead, almost a third of the village reduced to rubble, countless civilians homeless, losses beyond measure. I wonder if any of them have realized even a few of their mistakes. They lived in a village founded by the Uchiha, yet had never truly accepted the clan. Instead of honoring Uchiha contributions to the leaf, they branded the clan a destabilizing element, ostracized, monitored, slandered. If that's the case, then let the facts prove it. Who it was that earned them the right to enjoy this rich land under their feet. The sun was high in the sky, the biting wind blew ceaselessly. The people of the leaf huddled in an underground shelter, their faces numb. The Ninetales' early morning rampage had taken countless lives. Whole neighborhoods had become ruins overnight. For villagers whose economy had already faltered since the Uchiha left the leaf, it was a bolt from the blue. Some might truly end up sleeping in the streets. Despair spread like dye through water. The shelter felt drained of life. The sound of footsteps echoed as dozens of extremely exhausted, dust-covered ninja walked in. After a brief handover with the on-duty personnel, they all collapsed onto the ground. I'm dead tired. The Ninetales' power is terrifying. Just looking at that chaotic rubble, you can imagine how awful a tailed beast bomb is when it goes off. Why do we let a nine-tails Jinchuriki live inside the village? If not for the nine-tails, we wouldn't have lost so many. We don't have a choice. Every other village has a tailed beast. If we alone lack a strategic weapon like that, we'll be at a huge disadvantage. True, the other villages can't be much better off than us. With a tailed beast's power comes the risk. A deep voice cut in. No, at least the hidden cloud isn't like this. Heads turned. Tetsu, what do you mean? Because I saw it with my own eyes, Harada Tetsu said through gritted teeth. On a recent mission outside the village, I ran into the hidden cloud's Jinchuriki. That guy could wield the tailed beast's power freely. What? Shock rippled through the crowd, and the once quiet shelter filled with noise. People pressed toward the bandage-wrapped shinobi, curiosity burning. My comrade died to the hidden cloud's Jinchuriki. I know what I'm saying. He used the beast's tails to block everything we threw at him. Images of his comrade's death flashed across Harada's mind, twisting his face with grief and rage. If not for Lord Jiraiya, I'd already be dead. But tailed beasts are brutal. They don't seem like they'd willingly lend power to a human. Seeing the doubt around them, Takabana Hiko and Yamada Koshi sighed and stepped forward. Believe it or not, we saw it ourselves. Lord Jiraiya can testify. Hojo Shinroku knew too, but he died to the Nine-Tails last night. Hearing Jiraiya's name dispelled the crowd's doubts. With a man of his stature, no one would dare lie in his name. I'm so envious, someone said with a bitter smile. If our Jinchuriki could do what the hidden clouds can, we wouldn't be suffering like this. Which is exactly, Harada Tetsu suddenly raised his voice, why I'm furious. Chapter 46, The Hokage Must Take Responsibility. Tetsu Harada's sudden outburst left many people baffled. Even if the hidden cloud had a perfect Jinchuriki, that was just a special case, right? For most villages, dealing with a Jinchuriki's rampage was the norm. What was there to be so angry about? Maybe the death of a comrade had pushed him over the edge. Only Hiko Takabana and Koshi Yamada could half understand how Tetsu felt. Tetsu, maybe you should get some sleep. I'm perfectly clear-headed. Tetsu Harada snorted and met everyone's eyes. You're wondering why I'm this mad, aren't you? Because our hidden leaf could have had a perfect Jinchuriki just like the hidden cloud. Huh. Everyone stared, mouths agape. Someone couldn't help blurting. What do you know? Spit it out. Yeah, what do you mean we could have had a perfect Jinchuriki? Be quiet, we in the back can't hear anything. To make sure all could hear, Tetsu Harada stood and shouted at the top of his lungs. The reason the hidden cloud has a perfect Jinchuriki is that the Uchiha Clan's Sharingan suppresses the tailed beast. You all know this. Back then, Uchiha Madara used the Sharingan to control the Nine-Tails and attack the Leaf Village. The Sharingan's power naturally restrains tailed beasts. What should have been our advantage became the hidden cloud's bragging rights, and with a tailed beast's strength, they killed my comrade. Now even our village has been wrecked by that monster. Tell me, shouldn't I be furious? For a moment the crowd was stunned silent, then emotions exploded. He's not wrong. Madara controlled the Nine-Tails with the Sharingan, and only after the first Hokage defeated him did our village obtain the beast. So if the Uchiha hadn't left us, today's disaster could have been avoided. Damn it, why did they leave? Wasn't this village founded because of them in the first place? What happened between the village and the Uchiha? Lord Hokage owes all of us an explanation. That's right. I don't believe the Uchiha would defect without cause. We have the right to know the truth. For this Nine-Tails incident, the third Hokage should shoulder responsibility. During the first and second's time, the beast never broke its seal. Hearing the crowd grow more extreme and begin to blame the third, Anbu moved in to restore order. They approached Tetsu Harada, examined him carefully for a long time, but found nothing unusual. In the end, they could only take Tetsu and the others away and order everyone present to stop discussing the matter. But for villagers who had just endured a calamity like this, once a vent had been found, it was impossible to stop it up again. In the shadows of a corner, Yuzuru Uchiha's lips curled into a cold smile. Hiruzen Sarutobi, how will you handle this? Don't start regretting things too soon. That would be far too boring. T/N. True, after all of this, and he regrets it now would be unsatisfying XD. I've prepared plenty more for you ungrateful lot to savor. Space rippled, and Yuzuru vanished. Next phase, attack the hidden leaf village. Sensei, what happened to the village? Fresh from Mount Mayaboku, Jiraiya was stunned by the hidden leaf state. The village, how had it ended up like this? Hiruzen Sarutobi drew on his pipe and ignored him. Only when the tobacco burned out did he speak in a flat voice. Jiraiya, after being away so long, I thought you weren't coming back. Jiraiya shifted, uneasy. I've been searching for the child of prophecy from the great toad sage's dream. Did that great toad sage of yours foresee the leaf being destroyed like this, if you'd been here at the time? Hiruzen sighed. Not one of his 3 students could be relied on. Tsunade had left the village without a word, gambling everywhere. Jiraiya wandered the shinobi world, hard to find. In recent years, Orochimaru had grown darker by the day, either locked in his lab or vanishing mysteriously for stretches. If, on the night of the Nine-Tails rampage, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade had been present, would he have needed to risk himself on the front line? Would the village have ended up like this? Seeing Jiraiya fall silent, Hiruzen walked out. Come with me. They made their way to an underground chamber beneath the Hokage building, where Jiraiya saw Tetsu Harada, Hiko Takabana, and Koshi Yamada. Iron chains had pierced their collarbones, and all 3 dangled half-dead in the air. Do you know these men? Snapping back, Jiraiya frowned. I do. What happened to them? They incited the villagers and endangered public order, Hiruzen said mildly. Unfortunately, we got nothing from the interrogation. Do you know anything? I don't. Jiraiya fought to keep his temper. If you learned nothing, doesn't that mean they're innocent? No. Hiruzen shook his head. According to their account, Yuzuru Uchiha held back on purpose during the battle. That little brat is ruthless. He killed Anbu even while still in the village. There's no reason he'd spare these few. I suspect the masked man by the Nine-Tails that night was Yuzuru. Only he could slip through the barrier unseen. When he deliberately let Tetsu and the others go, he already meant to use them to stir up the villagers. After all, after witnessing a perfect Jinchuriki, saying such things isn't surprising. I thought there had to be more we'd missed, but now that you can corroborate parts of it, the facts likely match our findings. Jiraiya said, if that's the case, then release them and get the medics in here. No. Hiruzen shook his head again. What they said has already turned the villagers against me. If I let them go without charges, what happens to my image as Hokage? What are you going to do? I want you to testify that the 3 of them were controlled by Yuzuru Uchiha's genjutsu. Jiraiya's fists clenched. Absolutely not. As you wish, but Hiruzen headed for the door. Jiraiya, for the sake of the village, it's time you grew up. Watching his teachers retreating back, Jiraiya's face sagged with defeat. Sensei, how did you become like this? Chapter 47, preparing to strike the flying thunder god technique. Lord Third Hokage, can I really learn this forbidden technique? Namikaze Minato held the jutsu scroll, eyes bright with surprise. Hiruzen Sarutobi nodded. Minato, you've done much for the village. You've earned it. Minato's smile faded, guilt crossing his face. No, I failed to control the Nine-Tails. That's why the village suffered so much. Now he finally understood why Kushina Uzumaki had resisted becoming the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki in the first place. A single moment of carelessness could mean countless deaths. He never wanted to live through that again. Seeing Minato's expression, Hiruzen shook his head. Don't blame yourself. Without a special constitution, it's nearly impossible to resist the Nine-Tails' power. Before you can control it, travel outside the village for a while. Jiraiya will go with you. Hearing Hiruzen Sarutobi's words, Minato Namikaze's face was resolute. I will definitely work hard. All right, you may go. Yes, after Minato left, Jiraiya body flickered into the office. Sensei, even without the flying thunder god, reverse summoning can pull Minato out of danger. I just prefer to be fully prepared, Hiruzen said coolly. Then I'll take my leave. Jiraiya turned away without a backward glance. He couldn't be the kind of mature his teacher demanded. Leaving was the best choice. Land of lightning, hidden cloud village. Thunder boomed over the mountaintops. Dressed in black, Kushina Uzumaki faced the direction of the land of fire. Grandma Mito, rest well. She carefully placed a white flower on the ground. Footsteps sounded behind her. Kushina wiped the tears from her face. Seeing that it was Yuzuru Uchiha, she gave a wry smile. Yuzuru, am I being too weak? She'd prepared herself to say goodbye, but hearing the news of Mito's passing still brought tears she couldn't hold back. Someone like Yuzuru must hate this kind of weakness, right? Strength isn't refusing to shed a single tear, Yuzuru said seriously. It's drying your eyes and smiling at what comes next. And I told you before, the reason I get stronger is so the people beside me can live exactly how they want. Kushina blinked. You still remember that after all this time? Of course, Yuzuru tapped his chest. Keeping my word is my ninja way, databane, PFFT tilde. Kushina rolled her eyes, pinched his waist, and twisted. Don't you imitate me. Ha 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 ha. As Yuzuru laughed, Kushina threw her arms around him and murmured, Yuzuru, from now on, you're the only family I have in this world. Not from now on, right now. At her puzzled look, Yuzuru explained, soon there'll be a little Yuzuru or a little Kushina too. They'll be your family as well. I'm done talking to you. She buried her face in the crook of his arm and, flustered, gave him a bite. Yuzuru hissed through his teeth. Such sharp teeth. I'll have to be more careful in the future. T/N, is he talking about? Oh, crunch, crunch, snow squeaked underfoot, oddly soothing as Yuzuru strode into the rakeage building. In the rakeage's office, the third rakeage and were already waiting. Yuzuru, you're here, said the third rakeage. Oh heyo, Lord Rakeage, snorted. You're late. Yuzuru's eyes went wide. He stared at her. How did you know Makoto knitted me a scarf and Kushina knitted me gloves? Bro, seriously, who asked, stared back, dumbfounded that someone could be this shameless. But before he could retort, the third rakeage's large hand had already slapped the back of his head. Look at Yuzuru, then look at you. All day long, you're either running around with rocks or fighting with that guy B. You're worthless. At this rate, when will you ever find a wife? I bristled. Father, you're no different. The third rakeage flew into a rage. I have my reasons for being like this, but if you're talking back like this, I'll beat you. The scene made Yuzuru chuckle. No wonder I wore a scowl every day. With a dad like this, who wouldn't be dizzy? All right, back to business. At Yuzuru's voice, both rakeage fell silent. Yuzuru, is your plan moving forward? I asked. Yuzuru nodded. Yes, Uzumaki Maito is dead. The new Nine-Tails Jinchuriki lost control. The leaf suffered heavy damage. Both villagers and shinobi are furious with the third Hokage. Now is the perfect time to strike the leaf village. The third rakeage and exchanged a look, excitement glinting in both their eyes. Yuzuru, the third rakeage said gravely, if we go to war with the leaf, can we win? Even with the Uchiha in the cloud now, the leaf still had many powerful shinobi. They couldn't be underestimated. It's a sure win, Yuzuru said with confidence. With me, A, and Killer B, we're more than enough to handle their ninja. The third rakeage frowned theatrically. And what about me? My apologies. Yuzuru grinned wider. Growing up in the leaf, I forgot that a village's cage is also top-tier combat strength. The rakeage straightened proudly. Because I'm cage, I must shoulder that responsibility. As for village affairs, we just need a sharp secretary like Mabuma. As the two got carried away, a cut-in, and the pretext, we could attack outright, but having a reason would be better. Yuzuru had planned this already. Demand that the leaf return all Uchiha assets within the Land of Fire. If they refuse, we'll have a reason to attack. If we win, the Cloud will become the strongest village in the shinobi world. Mission contracts and the daimyo's funding will increase exponentially. And, Yuzuru swept his arm, when it's done, I'll only take half of the Uchiha assets the leaf returns. No need, the third rakeage said heartily. You've done the most. We won't take a single coin of the Uchiha's property. Worst case, after we win, we'll wring more war reparations out of the leaf. In the rakeage's office, Yuzuru, the third rakeage, and met each other's eyes, then threw back their heads and laughed. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 48, The War Has Begun. Hidden Leaf Village. After branding Tetsu Harada and the others as spies and executing them publicly, the villagers' emotions settled, for the moment. But Hiruzen Sarutobi knew that beneath the calm, dangerous currents still churned. Friends and family dead, homes destroyed, the bitter winter forcing people to labor non-stop just to secure a roof. Anyone would be filled with malice in such a state. And once that anger ignited, even the third Hokage might not be able to withstand it. As Hiruzen racked his brains for a way to protect his reputation under these circumstances, Danzo Shimura pushed open the door and entered the Hokage's office. He held a scroll and tossed it onto Hiruzen's desk. Hiruzen, a letter from the third rakeage. Hiruzen's brow creased ever so slightly. Relations between the leaf and the hidden cloud had never been good. After the second Hokage died at the hands of Cloud Rognin, the two sides had barely spoken. Now the cloud had even taken in the Uchiha, souring things further. Why reach out now? Turning this over in his mind, Hiruzen unrolled the scroll. A cursory read made his chest heave with fury. Bang, his palm slammed the desk. Those bastards, how dare they? Danzo blinked at his anger. What is it? Those cloud scum are demanding we return all Uchiha assets within the Land of Fire, or they'll wage war on the Leaf. Accepting Leaf defectors was bad enough. They hadn't even gone to settle accounts, and now the other side had the gall to come collecting. Preposterous. Absolutely preposterous. Even Danzo was stunned by the cloud's audacity. He'd always thought his own skin was thick. Who knew there were people even more shameless? His first instinct was to say, "Then we fight." But remembering Hiruzen's usual style, he shifted tack. How much do they want? Are we paying? I'll pay them nothing. Hiruzen's voice went cold. If it's a fight they want, it's a fight they'll get. Do they really take us for pushovers? Danzo stared, surprised. You're sure? I am, Hiruzen said, voice like iron. I'm sending Sakumo Hatake and Orochimaru to the front lines. Let's see how long those guys can act so arrogantly. Hiruzen, you finally impressed me for once. Danzo gave a thumbs up. Hiruzen seized the moment. Danzo, send Root to support the front as well. But that said, we could still try to negotiate with the cloud. Enough, get moving. After shooing Danzo away, Hiruzen stared up at the ceiling, eyes hollow. It wasn't that he was being tough. It was that he simply couldn't afford to pay 10 billion ryo. They truly dared to open their lion's mouth. Claiming they'd calculate at 100 million per year of income and would graciously stop at 100 years. Hiruzen almost laughed. Even if he wanted to pay, he couldn't. Not now. The village needed funds desperately after the Nine-Tails rampage. Clearing rubble, rebuilding homes, death benefits, labor, materials, none of that money was secured. Never mind reparations. Screw the Uchiha, the inherently evil clan you lived here for years. How can you be this heartless to us now? Land of Fire, border. A dozen Leaf shinobi patrolled the frontier, relaxed and loose. Honestly, Lord Hokage is too cautious. No way those cloud punks dare attack us. Yeah, we've won 2 shinobi world wars. If they come, we'll cut them down. So what if the Uchiha joined the cloud? What's there to be so cocky about? They can't seriously think we became the strongest village thanks to the Uchiha, right? Ha 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 ha. Their laughter died in a flash of blue lightning. One Leaf ninja was sent flying, chest caved in, dead on impact. Lariat. Another roar. An enormous man wreathed in crackling arcs drove an elbow forward, sending a Leaf shinobi's head spinning away. Damn it, enemy attack. The rest finally reacted, all composure gone. One of them reached for a signal flare, only to find a hard-faced man already standing before him. Crimson Tamo turned slowly in the man's eyes. The Uchiha will prove it. You became the strongest village because of us. Steel flashed. The Leaf shinobi's chest was pierced through in the span of a heartbeat. The entire patrol was slaughtered. Moments later, space rippled and Yuzuru Uchiha stepped out of thin air. The outposts are cleared. Fugaku, you'll each take a unit and strike the Leaf's main camp. Understood. The two moved at once. Ivana kept his mouth shut. In large-scale operations like this, discipline had to be absolute. If they disobeyed orders, Yuzuru had every right to execute them on the spot. Watching the ambushers of the hidden cloud surge toward the Leaf's border headquarters, Yuzuru's face remained utterly calm. War had begun. Leaf border encampment. Leaf shinobi patrolled in numbers. Messengers hurried in and out with intelligence scrolls. Everything moved like clockwork. In the central command tent, Shikakaze Nara frowned down at the reports, a bad feeling rising in his chest. Beside him, Chimasa Akimichi asked, "Why so serious, Shikakaze?" "Something's off," Shikakaze said, voice low. "Our outermost outposts haven't reported in for over 3 hours. I suspect an incident." Across the table, Inoki Yamanaka gaped. "No way. We've got plenty of outposts on the outer ring. If anything urgent happened, they'd have signaled by now." "That's exactly what worries me." Shikakaze's face darkened. "For that many outposts to go silent at once, we may be in trouble." No sooner had he spoken than the ground began to tremble, like 10,000 horses charging at once. A heartbeat later, a chilling battle cry rolled in from the distance. Cold sweat trickled down Shikakaze's temple. Move, alert everyone, prepare to engage now. These three are the fathers of Shikaku Nara, Inoichi Yamanaka, and Chozo Ikimichi. Chapter 49. What kind of trick is this? The Konoha shinobi reacted quickly. At Nara Shikakaze's order, every ninja assembled at once. Although their expressions were tense, there was little sign of panic. Around the camp, they had long since laid countless traps to prepare for every contingency. A direct assault on their camp, obviously a daydream. Yet just as they stood ready, waiting for the cloud forces to walk into their net, a pitch-black chakra sphere streaked across the horizon, leaving a brilliant trail in its wake. Under the horrified eyes of the Konoha warriors, the chakra sphere detonated with a thunderous blast above the camp. The heat and shockwave from the explosion instantly reduced the leaf encampment to rubble. A second chakra sphere followed immediately. It carved a wide, deep trench across the ground and detonated again amid the camp. It's a tailed beast ball. Damn Cloud Hidden Village deployed a perfect Jinchuriki. Don't bunch up. Keep distance from one another. Two tailed beast balls shattered the Konoha formation. The once disciplined shinobi were now like headless chickens. Even Nara Shikakaze's frantic orders couldn't turn the tide. What was even more terrifying was that the hidden Cloud Village shinobi had already charged forward in a frenzy, following the trench plowed by the tailed beast balls. All of Konoha's preset traps had been obliterated by the tailed beast balls. What kind of dirty trick is this? Ha 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 ha, charge with me. Today these leaf shinobi will learn what we can do. Look at these idiots running everywhere. They're probably stunned by those tailed beast balls. Today's a good chance to teach these arrogant fools a lesson for our Uchiha brothers. Thanks, brother, but we the Uchiha prefer to do it by hand. We've held back long enough. Today they'll see why the Sharingan is feared. In the distance, Yuzuru Uchiha stood shoulder to shoulder with the third Reikage, silently watching the battlefield. Under the leadership of a Killer Bee and Uchiha Fugaku, Konoha's shinobi could hardly mount a meaningful defense. Collapse was merely a matter of time. The third Reikage looked at Yuzuru and couldn't help but say, "Are those really Konoha shinobi? They look utterly vulnerable." Yet, Yuzuru, you don't look as pleased as I expected. Yuzuru replied calmly, "I don't like celebrating prematurely. Holding an advantage in one engagement doesn't mean much." The Reikage nodded. He felt more grateful than ever for the decision taken earlier. If this battle was proceeding so smoothly today, it was entirely due to Yuzuru Uchiha. Unnoticed, Yuzuru had mapped out every Konoha sentry, which allowed them to remove all those outposts in an instant. It was Yuzuru who located the leaf camp and proposed using the tailed beast balls to clear the traps. That is why they were able to close in and clash with the Konoha forces so effectively. There was no fault to find from any angle. If such a person became an enemy, one would lie awake all night worrying. Fortunately, Konoha had handed such a powerhouse into their hands. Deep underground in a command room, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, Hatake Sakumo and others studied maps under the harsh glare of the lamps, faces devoid of humor. The war had been raging for a month and Konoha's losses were heavy. Even with Orochimaru and the others personally arriving to reinforce the front, they had only managed to delay the Cloud's momentum. There was a reason. The Cloud's tactics were despicable. No matter how covert they tried to be, the enemy always found their command post with pinpoint accuracy, fired a tailed beast ball at the headquarters, then another where the shinobi were gathered. Then they simply barreled forward without thinking. Even battle-hardened veterans like Orochimaru were helpless. They couldn't just scatter their shinobi. That would be tantamount to sending them to die. Orochimaru's voice cut the silence, hoarse and cold as he addressed the group. This war with the Cloud Hidden Village has gone on too long. Dragging it out won't work. I'm seeing signs that the sand and stone are mobilizing troops along their borders. We must end this fight with the Cloud before they launch their offensives. Jiraiya nodded. I agree. As long as we stall A, Killer Bee, and Uchiha Fugaku, those high-end forces, our shinobi can hold. He had planned to travel the ninja world with Minato Namikaze while continuing to learn to control the Nine Tails' power, but the Cloud Leaf War forced him to shelve that plan. Minato looked ashamed and said quietly, "If I could control the Nine Tails' power now, we wouldn't be this passive." He couldn't go to the battlefield to help. Worse, he had to stay hidden, careful not to be discovered by Yuzuru Uchiha. Minato's chest tightened with frustration. Jiraiya offered comfort. "Minato, you're talented. You just need time to grow. Don't worry. We'll defeat the Cloud Hidden Village." Orochimaru cut in again. "Enough idle talk. I'll assign missions now. I'll take care of Uchiha Fugaku. Jiraiya, you stall Killer Bee. Sakumo, you handle that man called a." Hatake Sakumo hesitated. "Orochimaru, although Yuzuru Uchiha hasn't taken action yet, we must account for his strength. I fought him before. That guy's strength is definitely not inferior to mine." Orochimaru licked his lips and said, "Since learning about Yuzuru Uchiha's Mangekyo Sharingan, my teacher and I have been poring through records. According to the Senju clan documents, when Uchiha Madara first awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan, he seemed to have lost his sight for a time. Later, after Uchiha Izuna was gravely wounded by the second Hokage, Madara transplanted his brother's eyes and regained sight. It's not certain, but using the Mangekyo Sharingan very likely carries the risk of blindness. That may explain why Yuzuru rarely makes a move." Hatake Sakumo still looked worried. "But we can't gamble, we must gamble," Orochimaru interrupted cold. "We don't have enough elite forces. To win, we must take such measures." He scanned the assembled faces. "If you fear Yuzuru's intervention, then kill his allies whenever possible. This is the only solution I can see." Chapter 50. I am the strongest now late at night. Just like countless times before, a tailed beast ball streaked through the sky from the far distance. Already standing ready, Orochimaru slammed both palms to the ground. Summoning technique, triple Rashomon. 3 enormous, grim-faced gates burst from the earth, shielding the Konoha shinobi behind them. Boom! The tailed beast ball slammed into the gates at incredible speed. The first 2 Rashomon were pierced clean through, while the third trembled violently under the impact. But the force of the Rashomon's defense diverted the tailed beast ball's trajectory, sending it hurtling off in another direction. Everyone, standing atop the Rashomon, Orochimaru's robe fluttered in the cold wind. As he looked toward the approaching hidden cloud ninja, he swung his arm forward. "Attack!" At his command, the Konoha shinobi roared in unison and charged, faces twisted with fury. The 2 sides clashed head-on. Countless kunai laced with explosive tags detonated across the battlefield, flesh and blood scattering. Then a streak of blue lightning flashed through the darkness, striking down every enemy in its path. Suddenly, a cold gleam of steel intercepted that lightning-fast figure. Sakumo Hatake gripped his short blade, his gaze frigid. "Your opponent is me." When he saw the famed white fang of Konoha standing before him, he didn't shrink back. He burst out laughing with excitement. "Konoha's white fang, I've wanted to fight you for a long time. Don't disappoint me like the others." In an instant, Sakumo and it clashed. White light and blue lightning intertwined, moving too fast for the eye to follow. Elsewhere, Killer Bee tore through the crowd, his 7 blades dancing in his body. Though surrounded by Konoha shinobi, the red, transparent chakra cloak around him deflected nearly every attack. Soon, the crowd parted, revealing a white-haired man with a forehead protector bearing the kanji for oil. Ninja art, Needle Jizo. As Jiraiya formed hand seals, his long white hair transformed into countless piercing senbon that shot toward Killer Bee. Bee stood his ground, an enormous octopus tail rising to block every strike. So this is the power of the 8 tails. Jiraiya's expression grew grave. Even with his confidence, facing a Jinchuriki who could freely wield his tailed beast's power was no small matter. Toad Oil Bullet. A torrent of oil engulfed Killer Bee. Jiraiya immediately followed up. Fire Style, Flame Dragon Bullet. Massive flames surged from 3 directions, consuming Killer Bee. A second later, firelight erupted into the sky. Amid the scorching heat, Killer Bee threw back his arms and howled. Then, the colossal form of the 8 tails appeared, swatting down toward Jiraiya with a massive tentacle. Summoning technique, Jiraiya leapt back, dodging the blow, and slammed his palm to the ground after biting his thumb. A moment later, Gamabuntu appeared, his immense size rivaling that of the Eight-Tails. With a pipe between his lips, he drew the giant blade from his waist. Jiraiya, this one's no pushover. Jiraiya landed on Gamabuntu's head. That's why I need your help. Let's go. Right. The Eight-Tails and Gamabuntu clashed, their battle so fierce that no one dared approach within a kilometer. On the eastern front, Fugaku Uchiha slit the throat of a Konoha shinobi trapped in his genjutsu world, then swiftly turned. Fire style, great fireball technique. A massive fireball devoured dozens of venomous snakes, the air filling with the acrid scent of scorched flesh. Orochimaru, seeing the pale serpentine man emerge, Fugaku's expression hardened. Fugaku, your growth is impressive, but the wind you've stirred ends here. Before that, though, I truly want to know, how did your Uchiha clan flee Konoha and reach the land of rice fields overnight? Ignoring Orochimaru's curiosity, Fugaku's Sharingan spun wildly. Orochimaru merely smiled, unbothered, and spat a long sword from his mouth. Clang. Steel clashed as the two engaged in a deadly duel, every strike aimed for the kill. Before long, Orochimaru pulled back. He swallowed the sword once more, his eyes gleaming with feverish admiration. As expected of the Sharingan, that perfect perception truly complements swordsmanship. Despite the praise, Fugaku remained grim. Even with his 3-Tamo Sharingan, he hadn't gained the upper hand. The strength of one of the legendary Sannin was indeed terrifying. Tonight would be troublesome. Before Fugaku could decide his next move, Orochimaru struck again. Formation of 10,000 snakes. Orochimaru dropped to the ground, opening his mouth to an inhuman extent. Countless snakes poured from it, piling up into a writhing hill that swallowed Fugaku whole. Just as Orochimaru thought victory was his, a figure emerged from the mass of serpents, carrying Fugaku on his shoulder. Seeing those extraordinary eyes, excitement flickered in Orochimaru's gaze. Uchiha Yuzuru. Orochimaru, you chose Fugaku as your opponent just to draw me out, didn't you? Well, here I am. Yuzuru's Dejutsu power surged as he cast Fugaku into the Kamui space. At the sight, Orochimaru's tongue slithered out to lick his face in a twisted motion before speaking again. So, you saw through my intent and still came. You must have great confidence in yourself, Yuzuru-kun. Standing tall, Yuzuru spoke as if stating an undeniable fact. The me now is the strongest person in this world. Is that so? Orochimaru's grin faded, replaced by a killing intent as deep as an abyss. Then are you ready to face the terror that lies within it? Orochimaru, spare me your tedious tricks. Yuzuru's voice remained calm, utterly unaffected, though Orochimaru's killing intent was suffocating, enough to make even an elite Jonin like Kakashi Hatake in the original timeline break into a sweat and lose the will to attack. It had no effect on Yuzuru. With his Mangekyo Sharingan awakened, his mental strength had already far surpassed that of ordinary men. If Orochimaru thought he could break Yuzuru's composure through killing intent alone, he was gravely mistaken. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and enjoying these novel audiobooks. Every subscribe, like, and comment helps us grow faster. If you love revenge stories, overpowered MCs, rebirth novels, and fantasy audiobooks, make sure to subscribe and join the journey.